welcome to the 405th episode of the Random Podcast from Heck. My name is Tony, and this is the podcast about random things in the world of entertainment, which includes movies, TV shows, and comic books. Big shout out to Andrew Loken. He is a big supporter of the show. You can be a supporter by going to patreon.com/gmanfromheck. Any amount you can commit to will be awesome. If you commit to the Rick Jones tier or higher, you get access to the Secret Podcast from Heck, which is an additional 30 minutes of podcast entertainment every single week. I sometimes talk about random comic book off my mind topics. Lately, we've been looking back at Amazing Spider-Man, Spectacular Spider-Man, Spider-Man issues with the Hobgoblin. So looking at like his first appearance, early appearance, and just like diving into the mystery of who is the Hobgoblin, because it was like a long running mystery in comics. So we're going back, not reliving, but looking back at those issues. But if you can't commit to a monthly commitment, you can also help out by going to coffee.com/gmanfromheck, and you can buy me a virtual cup of coffee or 3. That's ko-fi.com/gmanfromheck. What is happening this week? We have Karate Kid Legends. So I'm going to be totally honest. When I was like, I'm a fan of the Karate Kid stuff, Cobra Kai, all that. I haven't seen all the movies. Like, I didn't see, what was it? I don't remember what it's called. I never saw The Next Karate Kid. And I didn't see the Jackie Chan, Jaden Smith Karate Kid. But we have this Karate Kid Legend. So I'm like, why are they making a movie? It's like Cobra Kai just ended. And there's apparently more to that. Like, this movie was supposed to come out earlier. So that's kind of crazy. So you hear about that. Well, I will say this. I did enjoy it. So I'm not like oh, let's not listen to podcasts because it's going to be, No, I was actually, it's not a perfect movie, but there's a lot to say about that. And yeah, so you can hear about that. We'll have the season finale of The Last of Us. This is crazy. Season 2 is over already. We got the penultimate, maybe, episode of Doctor Who. So things are getting crazy with, a lot of Time Lord stuff. And that we have the second Murderbot episode, because I'm, of course, behind on that now. So there are more available. And we will have one more episode of Star Wars Andor. And say what you will, I'm enjoying this one episode per week because it's all I have time for right now. That will probably change, especially with, Last of Us, we'll see. And once school gets out, I hopefully can catch my breath. But I'm digging this because there's just like so much. Yeah, I say it all the time. There's so much and so little, but there's so much. So let's get on with the news. Speaking of not a lot, what the heck happened? I couldn't see any news this week. What's weird is I saw, where did I see it? So they're talking about like Marvel and San Diego Comic-Con. So San Diego Comic-Con's coming up. I don't think I've said it, but I don't think I'm going this year. I don't, like the hotel lottery thing. Every year, it's like, it used to be where I would get like emails like, oh, this so-and-so, this is a date for the hotel lot, all that. My email's in the system. I get emails like, register for, press badges are available and, so-and-so. I always missed, or I missed it. I'm assuming it's happened already. So if I don't have a hotel room, obviously I can't go. And it's so incredibly expensive for me to go to get, just a hotel alone and an airfare and of course, food and that. So it's going to be, I'm going to be like really bummed if I don't go, but I don't know. We'll see. And I look at like what I would get out of it by actually being there. Like, and again, is that worth it? And, but really what it comes down to is the money. And, this is why I hate having to do the intro every week, saying, please support the show. But there are a lot of costs and, I am on a teacher's salary. So, yeah, I don't know. But it sounds like I'm not the only one. Like Marvel may not be going there full force, or at least Marvel Studios. It sounds like they may not have a Hall H panel. And the main reason is Fantastic Four, it opens the Friday of Comic-Con. So they're probably looking at, there's not really worth promoting, even though like last year, I think the same thing happened with Deadpool versus Wolverine. That opened up to Friday, but they did a panel. But that's, I think, a little different because it's a more established, franchise, if you want to call it that. People know what to expect from the Deadpool movies. With Fantastic Four, even though comic fans know what it is, it's all about the general public. And you look at like a related news kind of tangent is I saw Rob Liefeld like happily talk about or post this news or whatever data that Thunderbolts is like a huge loss for Marvel Studios, that they're going to lose like a lot of money because it's all about the promotion, and everything like that, where you're supposed to make 3 times the cost of the budget to pay for everything. So even though Thunderbolts asterisk had like pretty good reviews and fans were raving about it and everything, but somehow that wasn't enough for people to actually go to the theater and see it. So it didn't make as much money as past movies. And what's the reason for that? And I don't know if it's, I don't think it's just an isolated event. We have different movies. Sometimes some like Lilo and Stitch did really well. Mission Impossible, I think, did really well. But there are other movies, I still look at like Fall Guy, where, Ryan Gosling, I think he's a name, he draws people in. And that was supposed to be the big action movie. It came out, I think it was like in the May release of that year. It did not do well. And I think just people are just hesitant. Like I look at my theater, which I love, but like concession prices are going up because they have to. That's how they're making their money. And ticket prices are going up. So I feel like maybe people are reluctant to go, and then maybe with these movies they're like, well, I'll just wait till it's on Disney Plus. And if they have to wait 30 days or 45 days, even if they extend that, they're probably still looking at like, oh, if I go with my friend, if we're paying $15, $18, close to $20 a ticket when they can just wait. I feel like that's happening. But of course, everyone's like, oh, Marvel's on their way down. But it's like, well, why is everyone still talking about it? But they don't want to pay to see it. And, the economy is not in the best position, right? There's like so much going on, with the government, with political, and just all the economic stuff. So I think with that also, maybe they're looking at, maybe we don't want to do a Hall H thing. Because like what I say, when I said this with Deadpool, and again, I was wrong with that, but it seems weird to promote a movie at Comic-Con when it's coming out. If it was coming out the following week, because all the people that go to the panel, they're probably not going to be able to go see the movie because, where is the closest, are they all of a sudden not going to, unless they only have a day pass or whatever. So they're probably looking at, well, it's going to cost money to do a Hall H panel, to bring in, you have to fly in the actors, you have to put up the actors, because I doubt you're just going to fly them out then fly them back, or even if they live semi close to the area, they're probably, are they going to want to fly? Would they drive? So I feel like it's very expensive to do these panels and that. So no Hall H panel. And the other thing is, like, what else is there? Things are getting delayed. Avengers Doomsday, that's not coming out until like the end of 2026. So they're not going to really talk about that. I did see another report there's a rumor that the Avengers teaser is going to drop at San Diego Comic-Con. But that doesn't make sense, especially if it's so far out. Maybe I'm sure they could put, and a teaser trailer could be like so generic. But have they filmed enough? They could have said, okay, we're just starting. So we know that they're filming, some production has begun, so maybe they can say, okay, let's focus on this 30-second, this 60-second whatever clip, and we can edit this stuff and then go back to making the actual movie. I don't know. Yeah, I'm gonna be really bummed sitting at home, because I've been to Comic-Con, aside from the COVID years, I think I've been there every year since like 2008. Maybe it's just time, I don't know. So, boo-hoo, Tony. What about Constantine 2? I know a lot of people are looking forward to that. I love Keanu Reeves. Who doesn't love Keanu Reeves? I didn't love Constantine. I saw it. I don't even think I saw when it first came out, because as much as I love Keanu Reeves, I was like, that's not Constantine. It felt weird. And I didn't see it in the theater. I don't even remember what year it came out. But then I did eventually see it. And it's a fine movie. I will say that. It wasn't, I was like, I can't watch this. And it was fine from what I remember. I think I've only seen it once. If they make a sequel, of course, absolutely, I will see it because, again, I love Keanu Reeves. But if it doesn't get made, I'm not going to be that bummed over it. Do more John Wick movies, but he can only do so many of those. The problem with what the reason I bring this up is apparently Keanu Reeves isn't really happy with some of the scripts or the draft or whatever, the first draft. I don't know how many drafts where they're at. But they're wanting to do like a lot of big action. I think there's mentioned like flying car, like throwing stuff or I don't know what it was. And the idea was kind of like, don't make it like a big Marvel movie because it shouldn't be like some huge big spectacle. And with the way things are going nowadays, it's almost like maybe you don't want to make a huge budget. I'm still blown away at the crazy budget of Mission Impossible, because how is that going to be profitable? Because it's still. It made a lot of money, but it has a ways to go, I think. I haven't looked at the numbers this week. So, yeah, we'll have to see. And I think with something like Constantine, it should be a little more subdued. You don't need a lot of big, flashy spectacles, and we'll see. I mean, hopefully it'll happen, but I mean, I would have to watch the first one again to remind myself what happened. So we'll see if that happens. What about Joe Locke? So Agatha all along, there's no plans for him. We don't know if he's going to be, Wiccan is going to be in Avengers Doomsday. Probably not, maybe. But he said that when he signed his contract, it was like basically signed his life away type of, I'm sure there's a little sarcasm there. But he said that you just sort of wait for them, like to wait for Kevin Feige to say, hey, we need you for this. So you just kind of sit in limbo until then. So you're signed, and I don't know the specifics, obviously, but is it like, hey, it must be like I would imagine it's a time period, because is it like it's not going to be like you're signed. In the old days, it was like I think they signed it for like movies. It wasn't like Sam Jackson had like a 9-picture deal or 12 or something like that, or 9. Maybe it's like appearances. But then now that we have TV, like how does that, that probably changes the wording in, whatever the contract is. And since Joe was in a TV show, if there was a season 2, does that count as 1 appearance? Or if there's like 6 episodes, and does that count as 6 appearances? So I don't even know how that works. And then, so you just have to wait to like, when will it, are they going to do Young Avengers? And so he has no idea, apparently, supposedly, since we obviously can't ever trust them. And this is what annoys me when you see the interviews and people like here's like a Casablanca remake and someone, Haley Atwell's in it, and they're like, hey, by the way, what can you tell us about Young Avengers? Because they've asked her stuff at Sinners on this stupid example. But just because it just seems rude that if an actor's promoting whatever their current thing is, and then you try asking them something totally unrelated. Because obviously, there's people that are excited. They want to know this comic book stuff. But it just seems, it seems rude to ask them, because that's not what they're there to promote. And that's not what the studios are paying to get them to this whatever junket thing. And the other thing is they're not allowed to talk about it. If there's been no news that an actor is going to reprise a role or they're going to do something, then there's a reason for that. It hasn't been announced yet, so they're not allowed to talk. And even if it has been announced, they're not allowed to talk about any specifics. And then if you're trying to trick people into giving away secrets or something like that, that's just horrible. And maybe that's why I wasn't more successful in this, whatever industry, because I'm not going to be cutthroat or something like that. I just think that it's not being a scumbag. And I'm not necessarily saying that if you do that, you are a scumbag, but yeah, I don't know. That's just not me, and maybe that's my problem. So we'll have to see. What about Wednesday? When is Wednesday? Isn't it starting up soon? Wednesday, season 2. I got to look up that date. And Miles Miller, the co-creator, co-whatever, something, he said that, I think he said that season 2 is going to be more horror focused, which is cool, but it's still going to be family friendly. So it's not going to, I think this, what was it, something quote, like it's not going to be like horror porn or, it's not going to be, I don't know if they actually used that phrase, but it's not going to be like total blood, but it's going to be, I think that could be cool. Make it kind of creepy and spooky and not just cutesy. I mean, there should be some cutesy moments, but let's make it a little dark and I'm all for that. Penguin showrunner Lauren what was her name? LeFranc? She said that her team is in the early stages of developing another spin-off series on Matt Reeves' The Batman. That obviously that's going to be great because they did an awesome job with the Penguin. But if you're going to do a spin-off, like what's the spin-off going to be? So I'm like super like doubtful. I'm like, what could it be? I don't want Riddler. And is it good? What would they do? Like GCPD? We didn't really see them. I have no idea what they could do because you can't do anything major. And it's not like oh, let's have a Robin spinoff because there is no Robin. I don't know what they could do, and but yeah, I'm down because who knows when we'll get the Batman 2, and that's a bummer, but okay. I think it's Tania Miller has joined Vision Quest, and Vision Quest seems weird. I feel like no one's really talking about this. So, we're going to get a Vision show. I don't know when. I'm sure that the date's out there somehow. But it looks like she's going to be joining the show or whatever. I think it's a show, not a movie, as Jocasta. So if you know from the comics, you know who Jocasta is. So that'll be interesting to see what they do. And it's going to be weird to have this Vision Quest without Scarlet Witch. But that's how it goes. I don't know. Rumor report, and I don't think it's rumor, but a report. I think it was like some international people news out, or not news. Something got word of the running time for James Gunn's Superman, and apparently it's going to be 122 minutes. So 2 hours, 2 minutes, and they're saying that that's the shortest Superman movie since I think it was Superman 4, Quest for Peace. So 2 hour movie. Okay, that's fine. And that's the other thing. You don't want to make something too long and have it drag. But that's what I will say. I don't even know what the runtime for a Karate Kid movie, Karate Kid Legends, that felt short. We'll talk about that later. And the last bit of news, comic book news, is Marvel and DC has announced there's going to be a Batman Deadpool comic and a Deadpool Batman comic. I think this is like take 2 on this because I think I might have said Batman Daredevil, and then I was saying Deadpool. So Batman Deadpool. Batman Deadpool is going to be written by Grant Morrison. But I'm trying to think of what was the last DC book that Grant wrote. I like Grant, and I've been lucky enough to interview them and do a phone interview. I love the accent, yeah. And the writing it's always something. So let's hope it's like full-on Grant, Batman, Deadpool shenanigans. I don't even know what to expect. Then I think the Deadpool Batman is written by Zeb Wells. And then there's a lot of like creative team to be announced. And I forget who's doing the art because I know Greg Capullo is doing covers or a cover. This could be good. I mean, it's amazing that they're teaming up again. That whatever. Somehow DC and Marvel put aside their difference because why haven't we had this for the longest time? And I don't know what was the obstacle and what has changed. I don't know, but I'm down for that. So I like the characters. It's a strange, bizarre pairing. I can't see Batman he's gonna hate Deadpool, and that's what will make it fun. And hopefully this episode will be fun because that is going to be the news. There's a lot more coming after this. All right. I think I missed a lot of comics this week. I'm not even sure. And the weird thing was because of Memorial Day, you would think it's like, oh, great, an extra day off. But no, I was actually doing like trimming trees. Oh, we got this apple tree that's like insane. It just gets so crazy and just. So we got this plum tree also that gets crazy and just trying to trim everything and that took a big day and then I had a bunch of grading to do, which yay, fun weekend. But with comics, so I tried to read as much as I could and I have a feeling there's some stuff I didn't. I'm curious, I didn't see this Deadly Class giant-sized artist. Like, what is that? It's like a big, oversized, a giant-sized artist proof edition. That would be amazing to have, but I don't even know anything. I got to look into that. Department of Truth 30 came out. I need to get caught up on that. It's just such a freaky book, and I highly recommend if you haven't read it, to just go back and start reading that. There was Hyde Street, number 6. This focused on X-Ray Dude, and you know we got the Scout, the little Scout. I mean, it's such a weird book, and if you're probably like, what is it about? It's these people. They're kind of like in a hell, and they have to like collect souls because they're trying to get out. And it's kind of creepy, kind of freaky, and it's very intriguing. And I'm just really curious, like what Jeff Johns is doing, you know, with this. So read this comic if you're not. You definitely should be. There's G.I. Joe number 7. This was, I think Beachhead was in it. This was one of the last comics I read and like right before this is like probably like the worst time to record, you know, end of the week for me. And I know the podcast is like the beginning of the week, but as I record, it's like the end of the week and just, you know, trying to get through everything, trying to read everything and watch everything. I was literally, again, falling asleep. And I know like last week I was kind of drifting off as I was recording, which is really bad. And what I will say, it's kind of creepy in a way, because as I'm going back and just like trying to edit the podcast a little, you know, trim things down, there's some points where I'm totally talking, totally wide awake, and then I just start like mumbling, rambling about something totally. So it's like I literally just like that fall asleep and start rambling about something totally unrelated. Like at one point, I forget what I was talking about. I was talking about something like I said, and then there should be an ejector seat so people can get out. And I'm like, I don't even know what I was talking. So did I just like in the middle of a sentence, do I fall asleep and am I dreaming about something? It's like, I don't even know where that came from. And it's kind of scary, you know, but also kind of funny. So hopefully if you ever, and I did like mention that later in there. So hopefully I caught all the moments, because there wasn't that wasn't like that many, I don't think. But if there's ever something and it's like, wait, what are you saying? I probably fell asleep, but I'm trying to do all this. Yeah, so G.I. Joe, it was weird, and you know, I probably read it too fast, but we had Flint and Lady J, I believe, and I'm trying to think, it's because it's a little weird for me, you know, just trying to keep everything straight, because we have G.I. Joe and we also have G.I. Joe Real American Hero. And I'm trying to remember if this is the first time we saw Flint and Lady J. And are they part of G.I. Joe, or are they not with G.I. Joe yet? And yeah, but there's a mission to retrieve something. So it's like, what does this mean? Where's this going to go? So we have that. Then there is You'll Do Bad Things number 3. I know I have the issue, but now I think I didn't read it, so I can't speak to that. And I didn't read anything. I think Dynamite had Thundercats Lost. I think it was number 3. I didn't read that, and part of problem one is time, but the bigger thing is, I don't think I'm totally gung-ho with that, and I need to get caught up, because I think I missed some regular Thundercats comics. But I think Lost is like kind of the prequel ones, and it's like I don't know who these characters are, so I'm not invested. It's hard for me to care, even though it's Thundercats, and I like Thundercats stuff. Let's go to Marvel. So Marvel had a big week. Avengers 26. This is Masters of Evil Part 2. It's not my favorite story arc. It is kind of interesting. It is. I think there's some importance to this because pretty much all Avengers are gone, and it's just Sam Wilson, Captain America, and he's kind of touching on some stuff that was also kind of mentioned in the movie, where he's not Steve Rogers, and he doesn't have the super soldier serum in him, and so I find it. No offense to him, because he's been, such he's done a lot in the superhero community or whatever, but the fact that he's just a normal human, in great shape that has wings, but I still don't understand how he can talk to birds, like how that, because he's not a mutant. I don't know why I forget, or I must have known at some point, but. When I look at it, it's like, how can he throw, one thing with the shield, is it just a lot of practice knowing how to bounce in? Because, I'm sure it's like geometry and angles and stuff like that. To do it with such precision, where I could see, like, if you have the super soldier serum, like, totally running and enhancing every part of you, that you can, like, like, at a drop of a dime, say, okay, I got to hit it here, it's going to go there, it's going to bounce here, and it's going to hit this person, and then it's going to hit them just right. And because you're also having to predict, okay, I'm going to bounce it there, and this person is going to actually move into position so it can hit them, and then bounce over there, and then bounce back to me, which that's, suspension of disbelief and all that. But so with Sam Wilson, he's the only one on the Impossible City, the Avengers sentient space station thing that they acquired, sort of. And they've been invaded by this new Masters of Evil, which I can't. There's just, it's like the Masters of Losers, and I think that's the point. That it's none of like your A-list villains. And we got the Mad Thinker, we got Mr. Hyde, we got the Demonicus. Is that his name? We had Madcap. I'm trying to think of who else is in there, and no one I really care for. But the whole thing is like Mad Thinker is leading this, and Mad Thinker is supposed to be an evil genius, but he's been defeated so many times. So it's like, how much of a genius is he if he's like failed time and time again? So they've attacked the city, and they've kind of hacked into it. They're trying to take all the resources and everything like that. But a portion of the sentient city has kind of removed itself and is fighting along with Sam, they're trying to take everyone out one by one. So I like this issue better than the last issue, than 25, but we'll see where it's going to go. Then we had Cable, Love and Chrome, number 5. I think this is the final issue. And you look at that cover, like, wait, why is there 2 Cables? And this is where things get crazy because of the time travel. And the whole thing with, like, who Cable is the kind of villain, I guess you could say. But things really get messy, and things really escalate with one character. And it's an unfortunate, it's tragic, I guess you can say, like some things that happen. And it's also not confusing. I mean, it makes sense, but it could be kind of like, what? So, yeah, that was interesting. I still like, when does this take place? Because of the time travel thing, you never really know. Daredevil, Cold Day in Hell. Where does this take place? This takes place in the far future, because Daredevil, Matt Murdock, is like an old man. He's basically, kind of lost his powers, but he got exposed. There's like this radiation bomb thing, and he got exposed. It apparently was like the same stuff that gave him his powers. So he's back, but then the problem is he can feel it like starting to fade already. So he's like, I don't have much time left, and he wants to. He figures like this must. It was interesting. He's in this fight, like fighting these thugs to get to, because Bullseye's involved. Ugh, I thought Bullseye's gone. No such luck. But he's fighting these thugs, and he's like, I'm not gonna die here. He's like, God wouldn't give me the second chance just to have me die fighting these guys. Okay, he's got the faith. He believes in that. And we see, I don't know if I should spoil the other person we see, but it's interesting. So it's basically like the old man Logan, old man whoever, but it's different in a way because it's not so like pulled. It's not in that continuity where everything's just apocalyptic or whatever, just barren and desolate. But it's a little painful to see Matt at this age, because it's dangerous. He's old. You got to be careful. I couldn't be Daredevil at my age. I don't think. It'd be like no way. But I'm digging it. It's Charles Soule and Steve McNiven, so it's a great team. I didn't read Doom's Division. I didn't read Deadpool Wolverine. That's issue 5 already. I feel like that's not monthly. It's got to be more than whatever. Eddie Brock Carnage number 4. Yeah. So I find it. I'm so baffled at Charles Soule's like that he's writing a Carnage comic, and maybe it's just I hate Carnage so much. It's like, what are you doing? It has been interesting because it's Eddie Brock and Carnage, and Carnage is just such a piece of crap. He just wants to kill, and Eddie Brock is trying to work with Carnage. So he's trying to do the sort of like Punisher route. Take out the bad guys, and while Carnage wants to kill, Eddie Brock is like, okay, so we're going to go after the complete, utter, despicable scumbags and who deserve, go after killers and whatever. The problem is, I think it was the first issue where Eddie Brock was on a plane. The plane went down, but where are the survivors? So Carnage is kind of holding them hostage and some sort of stasis. The whole world is like, what happened to where'd this flight go? They all disappeared. And then now the FBI and Misty Knight, they kind of got wind that, Eddie Brock was on that flight. And Eddie Brock has been working with this lady who is running her own podcast. And, it's like, I think it's like a crime podcast, of course. And they're like, where's Eddie Brock? But Eddie Brock's like, where's the passengers? And Carnage is using... So like I said, Carnage is using the passengers as kind of his leverage against Eddie Brock. So yeah, it's just kind of crazy. Giant Size X-Men number 1. I'm a little confused here. So basically, what happens is Kamala ends up going back in time, and we won't get into the how or why. But she goes back to around the time of Giant Size X-Men. And she ends up at the Xavier school, and Cyclops. She sees Cyclops as he's like having a fit, and he remembers her. Now I'm trying to remember because when Ms. Marvel was with Cyclops in the was it the Champions? I always forget what their teams they were. I think it was the Champions, right? They knew each other. They hung out. They were teammates and everything like that. But the weird thing is, in this, I don't understand how Marvel broke their whole rules. Because I was like, these young X-Men they're from an alternate reality. They can't be from the main reality if they're traveling through time, because it's supposedly not possible. They went back, and I'm trying to remember when they finally did that did they remember everything that happened? Because, spoilers, they learned a lot about different things. And it's, like the whole thing, because how can Jean know, I'm going to save the space shuttle and the X-Men, but I'm going to be in a coma underwater, and then Phoenix is going to come around and is going to destroy a planet or solar systems, to just say, okay, yeah, we have to let this go. Of course they have to let it go because breaking timeline or whatever, but just to not worry about that. And then that means all the X-Men stories that we've read, they've known about this and just been in denial. It's like, I don't remember. But I think there was a moment later where Kamala and Scott had shared a moment, and because, they used to be teammates, but I don't know if he remembered. So he remembers her, and Xavier, I guess, kind of read a little reminder. He's like, you shouldn't be here and everything. So then she's like, oh, but this is the day you're going to meet the new X-Men. And then, Wolverine and Colossus and Storm and all them show up because they have to save the other X-Men. And she goes with them. But as they're flying, like their their plane blows up, and they're like, "Hey, some heads up would have been nice." And she's like, "No, it didn't happen this way." So what does that mean? Like history's changed? Is this an alternate reality now? And the bigger thing is like, why? What's going on? We had Infinity Watch number 5. I have not been reading this, and I don't know. I didn't read Magic. There's What If Donald Duck Became Iron Man. I'm curious. I will hopefully read it at some point. New Champions number 5. I have no investment with those characters, so it's hard for me to get into it. Spider-Man Predator versus Spider-Man number 2. Normally, I'm not like a big fan of these type of comics, and the main thing is, well, I have a hard time reading stuff for enjoyment versus reading stuff that matter. I hate saying that matters, but in continuity, like, is this part, is what's going to happen to Spider-Man? But then the flip side of this is, you look at like if what we had in the last issue and this one, it's like Mary Jane's in danger, and we could actually have a story where a Predator kills Mary Jane, and that can happen because it's not in continuity. So there's kind of that luxury where things can happen more specifically. I use this, I don't know why I use this example, maybe it's from Marvel movies and Star Wars, but like you could have it like maybe the Predator with its claws things chops off Spider-Man's arm, and then he has to become a cyborg Spider-Man. And then that can happen because it's not in continuity, versus if it's in a regular comic, they're probably not going to do that. So yeah, it's still, there's a couple things, like there's this detective, because so in the first issue, Peter Parker, he's working at the Daily Bugle, and he's taking like pictures, which seems a little, it's not unethical, but you wouldn't think that he would do this necessarily. Was taking pictures at a crime scene. Like one point he posed as like a forensic person to get in there, take some pictures, and then when a detective comes, she's like, "Wait, what?" It's like, "My guy's not here yet." And then she noticed like, "Oh, these pictures were printed in Daily Bugle," and she's photographs by Peter Parker, so she knows that he did it. And it doesn't seem like that's something that he would do. So she goes to his apartment and wears a spider sense because he's in his costume except for his mask. And there's a knock at the door, and he's like, "Oh, Mary Jane, did you forget your key?" And then he opens the door a crack, and he sees this detective, and he like shuts the door, and she's like, "Oh, Peter Parker, open the door." She's like, "I'm gonna kick this door down." But it's like, why would you open the door? Why would you say anything if there's a police there investigating? I think that would pose a threat to him. If they're like, "We're going to arrest you. We think you might be a person of interest in these serial killings." But it's enjoyable. So aside from that, nitpicking, I'm not reading Rogue Savage Land. Who are you reading that? Am I missing out on anything? Because that's issue 5 already. Spider-Boy 19. I tried reading this, but yeah, I have a hard time with I really like the idea of Spider-Boy, but just sometimes, I don't know, some of the stories just, it's possible it's just not meant for me. And again, that's fine. I hope there are people reading it that enjoy it, and if there's like a younger audience, that is awesome. That is amazing. I would say, put out more of these and let the kids, enjoy something. Ultimate Spider-Man 17. This book is just, this is how you do it. I mean, the other Ultimate books, they're okay. I don't know if it's just me. It's not you, it's me. But it's just hard to hold my interest in those. But this is just, I feel like this is just stellar. It's taking the core of the character. And I know I've probably said this like 16 times before. You take the essence, who are these characters, and you have enough familiar elements, but then you also can do things completely different, which is it's great. The fact that Uncle Ben is alive, that's the route they're going. We have Peter and Mary Jane married. They have kids. One of their kids is a teenager. So it's just, there's so much that's different here, and that's what I feel you should do. Like the Absolute books at DC, they're kind of mixing things up a bit, so it's not just the same things. But in a lot of, but it's not as drastic. And I'm not saying just do crazy, super drastic things. The absolute Green Lantern is kind of crazy. That's more what I'm talking about. Do something extreme as long as there's like a compelling story to be told there. Don't just do something weird and wacky just because you think you can do it. Like what we're seeing with Gwen Stacy, the fact that, one, Gwen Stacy is alive, and then what is she's doing is pretty crazy. I feel like I haven't really sat and processed what this means for her character. And what I can say is I think it's definitely interesting and different. So I'm down for that. So I'm loving. This is like going to be like a series to remember, because it's just really great stuff. Uncanny X-Men number 15. My problem with this is these new characters. I still, even though we're 15 issues, I don't care about them. I'm not invested with them. Their lives are in danger. They're in some weird place, and I kind of don't really care. And then the other thing is the Rogue is just always seems like she's so angry and just so quick. It doesn't seem like she wasn't always like that. And maybe it's because she's taken more of a leadership role, so she has more responsibilities, and she has to. But it's just, I don't know. It just seems kind of off. There's Venom Original Sin. I meant to read the synopsis. I was like, what is this about? What's going on here? Because we have Venom and Jack-O-Lantern. It's like, is Jack-O-Lantern still alive? So I feel like this could be like callback stuff, because I'm assuming this is like Eddie Brock Venom. So I don't know. I may have to go back and read this. I don't love Venom, but I don't mind Venom, or I don't hate Venom like I hate Carnage. So I don't know. Werewolf by Night, issue 10, which I haven't read any of these. I didn't realize it was going to be an ongoing, or maybe it's not, but I'm glad that it's at issue 10. I hope it keeps going. I hope people are enjoying it, but maybe someday I'll have to check that out. Wolverine and Kitty Pryde number 2. There's something, I don't know what it is, and this was, again, one that I was reading. It wasn't the last one, but it was one of the last ones. And while I love the original Kitty Pryde and Wolverine comic, I mean, it's one of my favorites because it was one of the first things I read when I started, collecting comics. There's just something that's just a little off here, and I think I just need to give it another chance. But yeah, so I love the Alan Davis covers. I love Alan Davis's art. At DC, we had Absolute Wonder Woman, and this was okay, in my opinion, this week. I mean, there's some cool things that are being set up. Like Wonder Woman is trying to find some other the other Amazons, because they're, I guess, out in the world somewhere. But apparently she has like animal powers, because she's gathered all these like animals and birds and squirrels, and she's putting little messages like, okay, send this out, go find the other Amazons. But it's like, how can Wonder Woman do this? It's like she can command the wildlife. I don't know. And then there's like some other stuff that was going on, and it just, I was kind of getting a little distracted, like losing interest. But yeah, so I didn't give it a fair shot, I think. Batman number 160. So this is a Hush 2. And, I was talking to a friend. It's like this, it's weird because in some ways it feels a little dated, because it's supposed to be Hush, but it's not fully dated, because, we have Damian, and, we have Jason Todd and, Nightwing, but we have Barbara is in full Batgirl costume, and she doesn't really do that so much. She's more Oracle. Occasionally she will, but I feel like she's mainly Oracle these days. And then the stuff with Jason, he's back to being like angry, like, I hate you, Bruce, type of thing. He's saying that there's like something wrong with him, and like Hush is going to help. And then there's like, are they going to kill Joker? Are they going to save Joker? Who wants Joker? And so it's just, I don't know. And the other thing that, again, I love Jeff Loeb, I love Jim Lee, and Scott Williams and Alex Sinclair. I'm so thankful we got the original team, back working on this. But I feel, I guess I'm also trying to figure out, like, why is this in a Batman comic? And I know that the original Hush was, but I feel like this is something that should have been, it's separate, like, maybe in a prestige format, just something different. Because in that way, because we have Commissioner Gordon's here, or Jim Gordon. He's not the commissioner, and I'm trying. He has been around, and they're like welcome back type of thing. So it's just it doesn't feel like it's quite in the current continuity. It's close, but it feels like it's a little further back. Like, is Vandal Savage the commissioner in this? He should be, but I don't know. Yeah, so, and the thing is, while I loved Hush, it's a classic. I don't care for the character, and I don't know where they're going with this, and we'll see. Justice League Unlimited #7. I did not read this because this is more of the Gorilla Grodd story, and I'm done with Gorilla Grodd. I feel like I'm just getting pickier as I get older. But part of it also is like, I don't want to read stuff that I don't care about. And I do feel like kind of obligated that I should be reading about this stuff so I can talk about it, so I can let you know in case you want to hear about it. But at the same time, if it's something I can't stand, I don't want to say, oh, I hate this character, I don't like this. And then you're like, but I like that character. And now I feel like you're insulting me or you're judging me or whatever. So I didn't even read this, even though, I enjoyed the series before, the creative team and all that. Mark Waid is doing great things. I just can't get into it. And it's a crossover, with the World's Finest, so I didn't read it. I started reading Absolute Martian Manhunter. So Martian Manhunter is not my favorite character. I have respect for him. I can appreciate his importance in the Justice League and DC universe. With this, but I think I probably should go back and read this because I started reading it, then I was just kind of skimming. This is a very weird book. It's freaky, and that's a good thing. Javier Rodriguez's art, the colors are just amazing. It's almost, I might kind of almost say it's kind of trippy, but not fully. But I'm just like, what is going on? And yeah, so this is definitely one to read or reread afterwards. So I should check that one out again. Superman 26. This is more, there's a lot going on here. Superwoman lost her power recently, in case you missed that. I didn't want to spoil that, but some time has passed. So there's fallout with that. And I think you know who Superwoman is. I don't know why I'm tiptoeing around that. The person that had these powers are like, oh, I'm fine. They're not fine. And that's something, well, at one point, spoiler, Lex is, because Lex is in prison again, and he tells Superman, I can give her the powers back. And, because you imagine having all that and losing it, there's going to be some resentment and everything. But then there's like more to it. There's more set up against Superman. Mercy is just being ridiculous. She's up to all this diabolical stuff, and Superman's like, Supercore is over. It's like, you're done. This whole thing's not going to work. And because, she's just so manipulative. And it's so silly because, she doesn't like nice, cooperative Lex. She wanted to somehow bring like evil Lex back. So it's like, okay, you're crazy. And that was just so weird because she seemed so helpful and kind and everything. There's stuff with like Lena Luthor, which I hope that character sticks around, and I hope they can continue to develop her because I think she could be interesting. Although there was a little interlude or something, and I hope it doesn't mean what I think it means. I'm sure it doesn't. So yeah, we'll see. Maybe, no. Yeah, so there's some in the prison. Lex actually was able to go visit a couple other people because he has to like make an exit because things start to go crazy. These two villains are like side by side cells. So it's like, okay, you're locking them up and you're going to allow them to be side by side so they can just basically sit and talk to each other all day. That seems silly. It's convenient for Lex so he can address them both. But yeah, all right, so you should check that out. Green Lantern 23. I felt like there's a lot going on here because we got Hal, and then like in Hell,
to try to get this artifact. And then the last issue, I guess I can spoil it since it's been a month, he finds Nort. Like, how the heck did Nort get there? And but then we also have stuff with Kyle and Connor. They're out in space, and they're in the space. Like, what is going on? And then you can see on the cover, we got Spectre. Spectre's like, Hal Jordan, I need a new host. And he's like, no. He's like, I don't want to do that. He's like, you can't make me. He's like, but you've done it before. He's like, yeah, no, I'm not. So kind of crazy. And that's all I read. So we also had Mr. Terrific Year 1. I don't really know a lot about, I mean, I feel like, again, if I had more time, I definitely would have read that, because I don't know about, like, what is Mr. Terrific's Year 1? And I really hope they do it justice. You know, and not like, let's rewrite his history just to, you know, I hope it's what the fans would want, you know, the Mr. Terrific fans, and what they feel the character deserves. We also have the Flash 21, which I didn't realize this series was still going on. So I have no idea what's happening there. Green Arrow 24. I liked this series when it started, but this is one that I just got behind, again, because of time and everything. It's my lame excuse. And now we're at 24 issues. So I need to get caught up with that. That seems so daunting now. So I at some point, I'm just going to have to, like, jump in and try to say, like, hey, what's going on, and try to figure it out. There was a Metamorpho comic. There was Eagly and Vigilante, or Vigilante Eagly comic. See, to me, I feel like that's just going to be too silly and everything. And then Harley Quinn still has a comic coming out. That is it. That is going to be comics for the week. Okay, Doctor Who Season 2, Episode 7, Wish World. So now we finally know that we have Durrani. So I think I mentioned it. I'm almost positive I haven't seen Durrani. She looks familiar, so I'm attesting that to, I must have seen her picture online or something like that. But I'm pretty sure, I don't think I've seen it. She appeared in 2 episodes, 1985's The Mark of Durrani. That was a Colin Baker episode. And then Time and Durrani 1987, which was, although, see, now that I think about it, that was the first, I think that was the first with Sylvester McCoy. I'm trying to think, I don't even remember if I've seen that. I may have seen that one, Colin Baker turning into Sylvester McCoy. So maybe I did see her, and it's just been so long that I don't really remember her. But I did a little reading, and in the first episode, The Mark of Durrani, she was actually teaming up with the Master, and I pray to Rassilon or whoever, please don't bring back the Master. I got so tired of him coming up all the time. So yeah, and I guess she's just like really evil, which is not good. Now, the question, which I don't know if it's going to, because I feel also, I know we had the Time War, and they kind of touched on it, but it's like, how exactly did Gallifrey just, it's like, how do I not know that? Because when we had Christopher Eccleston, you know, he was sad that, you know, Gallifrey was gone, and they were hinting at it. Then we had the War Doctor. Maybe I need to watch that episode again to see, like, how, like, what happened to Gallifrey. Because I feel like I'm a little confused, and maybe I'm just like forgetting whatever as I get older. I don't even know what's going on with me. But I feel like if everyone's gone, does that include the Master? Does that mean we won't get the Master? But then how did Durrani survive? And you know, maybe we'll find out, you know, not this episode because we don't, maybe next week's. But if the Doctor is seeing Susan, the Flashes, I have a feeling that that's going to be another friggin' red herring, that is, or it's just not the case. Because last time we saw Susan, she was supposed to be like a 15-year-old, or she was supposed to be like really young. And since I didn't see those episodes, I think she stayed, I think I read up on her as like, whatever happened to her? I think she ended up staying on some planet. She didn't stay with Ian and, was it Ian and Barbara, the first Doctor's companions? Does that mean Susan gone? And then I keep saying I should read up what happened to Romana. So, like, does that mean everyone, all the Time Lords gone? Because the Doctor's the last of the Time Lords. But then, why do we, of all, oh no, there's another Time Lord. It is like the most evil one aside from the Master. I don't know. We'll see. It is interesting. I mean, I do appreciate that they do these callbacks. That they're kind of. I mean, obviously, Rani is not an obscure character. If she has, I feel like she should have like a big importance. Is just I didn't have access to a lot of these episodes, and I didn't see them multiple times. Like I saw the John Pertwee, Tom Baker, and Peter Davidson episode. I saw those like more than once because they kept repeating. When they would cycle through the episodes. And then the Colin Baker ones and Sylvester McCoy, see, I must have seen Rani. I mean, that's probably like somewhere in the back of my mind. I kind of recollect her in her like one outfit or whatever. So let's just get started. So we have Rani. That's bad news for the Doctor. Good news, the Doctor. Hey, dude, you're not the last of the Time Lords, but there's an evil Time Lord that is here. So it starts off. We see this cloaked person riding on a horse through the woods, and then the screen tells us it's Bavaria, 1865. There's like a mountain range in the background or anything like that. Ryder approaches this cabin. This dude runs out, said that they've sent message to the village, and they thought no one was coming. Ryder takes off her hood, and we see it's the Rani. So the Rani, again, last episode, Mrs. Flood was apparently the Rani, and she bi-generated. So now we have Mrs. Flood and the Rani, which is a little younger than Mrs. Flood. But what I find interesting, I don't know, apparently I don't know as much about Doctor Who and Time Lords as I thought. I thought I knew a lot because I grew up with this and, reading the novels and, watching as many of the episodes as I could. Like this whole bi-generation thing, when David Tennant Part 2 did it with Nkuti Gunwa, I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. I never heard. I didn't even know that was possible. I don't know. Did they ever mention that before? But if that was the first time, then all of a sudden, oh, Durrani's friggin' bi-generating too. What a coincidence. So now, I guess but okay, that's the other thing. So we still have, and I was thinking about that during this episode. How come this other David Tennant Doctor isn't doing anything? He's just like sitting around, just chilling, and maybe he was he just kind of like tired? I mean, maybe it took a toll, the bi-generation took a toll on him, so he's not able to go out on adventures that he I don't know. But then with the Rani and Mrs. Flood, if we're still calling her Mrs. Flood, they both seem fine. Why did she wasn't like dying or anything when she bi-generated. Okay, it's the Rani. She takes off her hood, and the dude's like, "You're not the midwife." And she said her name is Frau Rani. And she's like, "Am I too late?" And you heard baby crying inside, so he motions to the cabin. And she's like, "No, just in time." So the dude said that they thought they needed help, but then Violet, which is his wife, Violet with two T's, not that that matters, but I thought that was interesting. She was in an awful lot of pain, but then a miracle. So they were so lucky. She turns, she's like, "But you were born lucky. Isn't that what they say? Herr Zufall." So she knows who he is. The seventh son of a seventh son. And she enters, she counts the kids. 1, 2, 3, they're all sitting at this big long table. And Violet's holding the baby. And she says, "We thought Jonas would be a wonderful name." The Rani's like, "I think it's absolutely terrible." She's like, "Let me see." And she takes the kid. And she's like, "Hello, I think he needs a stronger name like Sturm und Drang, yeah?" And the mother's like, "I'm sorry." He's like, "I don't think his name is up to you." And Ronnie's like, "I'm afraid it is because I will be taking the little baby. Dr. Shane," he's like, "You've done a very good job, but now he's all mine." And the mom's like, "Excuse me?" She's like, "I don't think so." She's like, "Give my child back to me now." And Ronnie's like, "Violet, isn't it? Such a pretty name." She kisses the baby in the forehead and then blows. And she's like, "Your wife is Violet's." And her arms turns into, and she's just a pile of violets, like flowers. Baby cries, the father stares, and all he does, this really bothered, his reaction was like, "Witchcraft." He doesn't like freak out more than that. And then Ronnie's like, it's older than that, darling. Your child is a fountainhead of a power from beyond this universe. How and why? I don't understand, but okay. And the fact that she knew to arrive there. And how did she arrive there? Does she have a TARDIS? Did Mrs. Flood have one? She knew what a TARDIS was. Obviously, she's a Time Lord, but I don't know. So he tells the kids, like, "Kids, get out now." And then Ronnie's like, "That's right. Smooch." Waddle away. Poof. They all turn into ducks. Quack, 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 quack. And why are the ducks like suddenly on the table when none of the kids were on the table? So we can see them, I guess. She turns to the dad. And again, he's not like, no, my kids. He's just standing there. It's like, my kids are turned into ducks now. He's nothing. And so she turns to him. She's like, and you, seventh son of a seventh son, such great wisdom. So again, he's just standing there. No reaction. Kids are ducks. It doesn't matter. She kisses the babies like a wise old owl. And then here's the thing. He didn't just turn into an owl. He also turned into a big metal perch for the owl to sit on. Okay? Because where did that perch come from? And then she's like, hoot, hoot, quack, quack, bye-bye. Outside, she's like, now then, let's get to work. We have things to do in 160 years' time with one very special witch. Smooch. So 160 years, 2025. London, 2025. Alarm goes off. The doctor wakes up in a bed. He's wearing blue pajamas. There's like flower wallpaper. He does a big stretch, has a big smile on his face. And then, what? Belinda's lying next to him? Like, she sits up smiling. Morning, darling. Morning, sweetheart. Chuckles. Smooch. They just like little peck and, whatever. And then he's like, oh, this is nice. You and me, I could stay here forever. She's like, don't go to work. Stay, stay, stay. He's like, oh, I wish, but I've got to earn a living so that we can have a lovely life together. And then the closed caption is like, someone named Poppy says, meow. This little girl comes in, like maybe 1.5, 2. Well, it must be less than 2. Belinda's like, hello. And then the doctor is like, hi, meow. And then Belinda's like, did you see a cat? Meow. And she's like, uh-huh. The doctor's like, is that you wanting a cat? And then she's like, yeah. And then she laughs. Belinda grabs the TV remote. There's this little tiny TV like on a dresser at the end of the bed. And it's stupid Conrad from a couple episodes ago. The guy that the podcast guy that was like cruel, evil to Ruby. He's like, and the weather's going to be nice all across England and the whole of Great Britain. It's nice in France and Africa and Venezuela and Missouri. Why Missouri? And New Zealand. That's my promise. Really nice weather all over the world. Happy morning, everyone. The doctor and Belinda both are like, happy morning, Conrad. So at this point, I'm like, what is going on in this episode? And I think this was like a 7.5 or 7.6 on IMDb. It was like almost the same as last week's singing episode. So Conrad, he's sitting in his chair. He has a book. And this part was kind of weird and kind of bothers me a little bit because this is the second time they're doing this. He's like, now it's time for today's story, Doctor Who and a Deadly Wish. So they're calling him Doctor Who, which is what happened in the one episode where they went and there was people like the Doctor Who fans watching TV. They came out of the episode. What's his name? It was a 1950s episode. He's reading a story. Once upon a time, the Time Lords were really clever people from the planet Gallifrey, but one of the Time Lords ran away. So we see the doctor. He's sitting at a dining room table with Poppy, and he's like, what's Uncle Connie saying, Poppy? Belinda comes in with a laundry basket saying that she's got so much to do, laundry and shopping. And she's like, and Amma's coming, her mom, and Amma's coming around because we've got plans to make plans or something like that. She's like, do you know why, Poppy? And then to the doctor, he's like, come here, jam face. She calls him jam face because he was eating. And she's like, do you know what day tomorrow is, Poppy? It's May Day. It's May the 24th. I didn't think May the 24th was ever May Day. And the doctor's like, it's a big day. We're going to celebrate with balloons and songs. And Belinda's like, Mummy will cook a big pot of biryani. Isn't that nice? And Poppy's like, no. And then somehow the doctor's coffee cup or coffee cup that he just set down on the table shatters on the floor. But it was weird because it's like this bright yellow and it's white inside. It's like completely clean. No spilled coffee or anything like that. Belinda says that, she's like, I got it. She's like, why don't you run off? So she sweeps the broken bits into this little bin, like a hand bin. And then doctor opens a cabinet. It's full of yellow mugs. And he sets it onto the table. Belinda hands him like a derby, and he's wearing a suit. So he opens the front door. Ruby's standing there. And she's like, hi. He's like, hello. And she's like, yeah, sorry about this. Do I know you? And he's like, I don't think so. Who are you? And she's like, I've got to ask, are you the doctor? And the doctor's like, do you need a doctor? Is everything okay? And Ruby's like, no. And she like grabs his arm. She's like, are you called the doctor? He's like, my name is John Smith, which I do appreciate that they use John Smith because that's what, I don't know if others use it, but John Pertwee used that as his alias. So obviously it's not his real name. John Smith is such a generic common name, right? Or what supposedly. But I recalled, so now I'm questioning everything. But John Pertwee, the third doctor, used that because he was exiled on Earth for a bit. And so he says his name is John Smith. And Ruby's like, okay. And she chuckles. She's like, but it's not. She's like, I don't know why. It's just not. And then nosy Belinda comes along, up to the door with Poppy. She's like, what's going on? So again, she's so nosy. He asks Ruby if this is some sort of game because I don't really appreciate it on my doorstep. And then Ruby looks at Belinda. She's like, and you're John Smith's wife? And she's like, I certainly am. Who are you? And she's like, that's your daughter? And the doctor's like, of course it is. That's Poppy. And Ruby's like, but she's not, I'm sorry, but you don't have a daughter. And then with like almost disgust, the doctor's like, oh my God. And Belinda's like, I beg your pardon. It's like, that is the most outrageous thing to say. And she takes Poppy inside to watch Uncle Conrad. And Ruby's like, no, please, I'm sorry. She's like, my name's Ruby. I swear, I'm just trying to help. And Belinda picks up the phone. It's like, really? You're calling, who you're going to call, the police? And she's like, no, please, I didn't say, I didn't mean. And the doctor's like, did you say Ruby? On the phone, Belinda's like, she says that she has someone expressing doubt. So Ruby turns and leaves as Belinda gives like their address. So Ruby runs down to the sidewalk, bumps into the neighbor, and Ruby recognizes her. The doctor calls out. He's like, no, don't speak to her, Melanie. And Ruby looks at her. She's like, you're called Mel. So we've seen Mel. She's working at unit now. And then Mel's like, I'm sorry, do I know you? And Ruby's like, no. And then Mel dumps some broken mug pieces in her trash bin, and there's a lot of broken pieces. It was like, what's up with all the broken coffee cups? So Ruby takes off, and Mel's like, what was that all about, Mr. Smith? And the doctor, or John Smith, he's like, oh, never mind, best forgotten. One more day till May the 24th. Any plans? And Mel's like, oh, I'm single, no parents, no children, so I will sit in silent contemplation and be jolly glad. Across the street, they see some like gigantic, I don't know what the point of this, some big, giant, moving bone creatures. At first I was like, are these shriek? But they're way too big. Because they have like horns on the side of their head, like side of their jaw. And then they also got like little horns on top. So I don't know what the heck they are, but I feel like I'm supposed to know what they are. One like roars loudly, and the doctor's like, aren't they beautiful? I ask you, how can anyone doubt this glorious world that we live in? And there's also like a big, giant like bone structure, like high up, like almost like spider-like bone legs that are like holding it up. So it's like, what? Stupid Conrad continues the story from the chair. The people who lived on Earth were called humans. Doctor Who had lots and lots of human friends. They loved him and traveled with him. So then we see the doctor and several other men in suits and hats walking to work. Conrad's story continues. Sometimes they'd leave him so they could go and fall in love and marry and have babies. So the Conrad broadcasts like on the side of the building as the doctor is walking across like a plaza. And then the doctor was all alone. Ruby's nearby. She's like behind, like following him. But he traveled on with bravery in his heart. So the doctor's like smiling as he pauses to listen because, he doesn't know it's about him. Looking for his next best friend. Inside is a sort of like old-timey office. It's like, brown, very muted colors. There's a bunch of desks, like long, wide desks. Kate is there. This is actually the unit office, but I didn't recognize it at first. So Kate is looking at the clocks, and it's almost 9, and she tells the doctor, she's like, you're cutting it fine. Another 2 minutes, and you'd have been late. He's like, well, I did work late last night. And she's like, time carries no favors. This lady comes up with like a cart of coffee cups, and but this one's plain white, not that matters. And she, knows how he wants his creamish or whatever it was. Kate gets a snippy about getting to work. Tomorrow may be a holiday, but today's not. Stupid Conrad says, and then a sad day came along. All the Time Lords were killed, and Doctor Who was the only one left. So there's a row of desks, and the doctor scoots over to Ibrahim, the unit's like security guy. Conrad's like, he ran back home, but he was too late. So doctor tells Abraham, he's that she loves Chinese food. Deborah in accounts says Kate swears by it. So Abraham's trying to figure out how to ask her out, but he thinks that she's out of his league. And the doctor's like, psh, he's like, you're a beautiful man. And Abraham gets offensive. He's like, what's that supposed to mean? It's like, you're a man. How could you find another man beautiful? So again, well, there's a reason. It's like, how this is ridiculous, right? And the doctor kind of stammers, and then psh, there's a glass shattering. So it was his cup, even though he wasn't near it. He stands up. He's like, "Oh, sorry." He's whatever. Then the coffee lady comes to clean it up. But this cup actually has like coffee or tea in there. So there's like a little puddle inside. So I don't know why his was empty in the beginning. I guess maybe it doesn't matter. Kate comes in. She's barking that it's like 9 a.m. Get to work. Doctor's phone rings. He's like, "Happy morning, Unified National Insurance Team. How can I help?" Stupid Conrad continues. And Doctor Who wished it was like the old days when he had a faithful companion. And there's like, it kind of glitches a little bit. He's like, at his side. Belinda's like placing yellow like teacups on the table. Poppy is still in her high chair. Conrad continues, but sadly, those days were gone. There's a knock at the door. Belinda's mom, Amma, she comes in with her auntie. They ask Poppy if tomorrow will be a fun, and Poppy loudly is like, no. They all laugh. Amma's like, oh, she's getting cheeky. Auntie says that there's plenty of time to drum that out of her because, they know their path. Good little girl, then good little wife, then good little mother. Amma, her mom, says, Conrad said, that's what we're here for. Auntie says, and Conrad is never wrong. So Mom talks about the long time she was in labor with Belinda, and Auntie's like, how long were you with Poppy? Belinda's like, how long was I what? And Auntie's like, in labor. And Belinda's like, and Mom's like, I must have been there, wasn't I? And Belinda chuckles. She's like, I can't remember. And she chuckles. Auntie says, like, every mother, because she's like the only child or something like that. But she's like, every mother remembers the birth of their child. And Amma says that she can't remember it either. And then Belinda asks Poppy, he's like, do you remember the day of your birth? It was like, how would she remember that? And she just like stares at her. Then Belinda's like, when was it? And then psh, a teacup and like plate like shatters, snaps her out of it. Mom's like, oh, easily fixed. And that's what happens when you doubt something. Belinda goes outside, leaves them with Poppy. She runs across a park into the woods, and then she just screams. She's by a stream, and she's like, ah! She screams like twice. What the heck is going on, right? Stupid Conrad continues, it turns out Doctor Who wasn't the only one left. A time lady had survived. But how? That's what I want to know. At the doctor's office, coffee lady looks out the sky and is like, there she is. And you see like someone's flying down. You can't really see like details. Everyone gets excited. They all look at what used to be like the big exit door platform at Unit. And they're like looking at through the windows on the door. The doctor quietly is like, I wonder who she is. And they all like look at him in disbelief. And Abraham's like, what is wrong with you today? And Kate's like, you wonder who she is? And he's like, oh, no. She just is. She is, and that's all. And they continue like watching out the window. So then we see Irani. She's flying like on some like hover glider thing with like kind of like handlebars, like, and she's standing on it. She lands in the giant bone structure thing. Mrs. Flood is there. There's like the robot drones from the singing episode last week. Ronnie has this baggie, and she's like, mortadella from Italy. It's dead, pink, fat, but humans seem to like it. So let's keep the boy happy. So I was like, what the heck is mortadella? I guess like some lunch meat or something like that. So let's keep the boy happy. She checks in with this like grayish alien thing with like this big headpiece thing, like over her head, over her eyes, whatever. And they have like long fingers. They're like scanning. I guess they're scanning for doubters. So there are others. And Ronnie's like, excellent. Seek and ye shall find. Mrs. Flood, she's in another room making a sandwich with the meat stuff. And she's kind of talking to herself. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. May I cut your toenails, madam? And then she brings a sandwich to stupid Conrad. He's like in a room in the chair. He's like reading the book. And he says to the camera, okay, oh, let's pause there. Now, have a look at some pictures of India. So he stands, he's like, hello there, it's been ages. And she says that she's like, I know, but the mistress, she has lots of demands. And he like thanks her for the sandwich. asks if is it okay out there? Is it working? Mrs. Flood says, she's like, I think so, very, very much so. And he's like, it's hard work. He's like, all the thinking. Sometimes I forget about the weather and South Africa gets flooded. Then she's like, oh, you're doing fine. He gives Mrs. Flood a hug, and she kind of comforts him, saying that, he's doing a very good job. That's why they found him and saved him. And she asks, how's the little one? And Conrad's like, the same as ever. He's like smiling. So he picks up a baby from a playpen. It's the baby from the beginning of the episode, the magic kiss head baby. I guess he's watching it. Conrad says that, he's so tiny, he sustains the entire world. Flood says that, and that he never cries. And Conrad says that, but he does occasionally chuckle. And, he's like, isn't he terrifying? He's absolutely terrifying, or something like that. So this baby can change the world, I guess. Ronnie puts a vindicator under this giant clock in the main room, and she says, temporal fix. Flood returns, and Ronnie seems impatient, and even she's like, you told me to make a sandwich. So Ronnie asks if the trap is ready, and Flood says it's just waiting to be primed, ma'am. So they go out on the balcony. Ronnie asks, how's the doctor? Flood said he's getting there, doubts at 30%, but it's sunset at 20:58, and that's when his thinking intensifies. So Ronnie looks out down at the city. She's like, it's a shame these people have to die. I was getting rather fond of them. But tonight we will find him, the one who is lost. And then the great work begins. So when she's saying she's going to find him, the one who is lost, it's like, that better not be the master. Ruby's like walking. She looks up at the bone creatures. Conrad is being shown on the side of a building. Many years ago, when Gallifrey was young, the Doctor and the Time Lady had been terrible enemies. They had fought over all sorts of irrelevant things. But the Time Lady knew that they could be great friends if only Doctor Who knew how clever she was. So one day, she stepped out of the shadows. So this second time, we saw Shirley before. So Shirley worked at Unit. She's in the wheelchair. She's there on the sidewalk because she was begging for money before. She asked someone, I forgot who it was. So she's on the sidewalk where Ruby stopped to look up at the show and the bones or whatever. So they talk about the bone creatures because at one point, I don't remember thinking if it was this part or another part. There's all these people standing in a plaza, a different plaza, and a Bigfoot shunk comes down, but it doesn't smash anyone. And so I was either Ruby or Shirley, it's strange how they're there, but they're not there, or something like that. Conrad continues, she said, Doctor Who, remember me? And he did. He said her name out loud, and he said, we shouldn't be enemies anymore. So Shirley asks Ruby if she can spare a couple quid, and Ruby stares at Shirley, kind of snaps. She's like, oh no, I shouldn't be talking to you. And she turns to walk away. They both kind of go their separate ways, but then they both stop and turn. And Ruby's like, sorry, but is your name Shirley? And Shirley's like, Ruby? I thought Ruby was going to be like, no, that's my name. But then she chuckles. Shirley takes Ruby to her. She lives in a homeless camp or something like that. There's a bunch of tents and everything. So she tells Ruby this is how they live. The disabled, the dispossessed, the ones who don't fit in. And Ruby's like, I swear I've never seen this place before. And Shirley's like, yes, you have. You walk past it every day and you ignore us. Ruby's like, but how do I know you? Because I swear we've never met. He's like, can you please just tell me, what the hell is going on? So they finally sit, in a circle with some other people. And Shirley says that they get ignored. That's just the way the world is. Sometimes all of them in the camp get these glimpses, like something out of the corner of their eye, a glimpse of a better world. Shirley tells Ruby that, she's different. She seems very non-disabled to her. And Ruby jokes, she's like, well, I could be taller. And Shirley's like, well, despite that, you're the same as us. Because she keeps having doubts about the world, but why? Ruby says that there's this man called the Doctor. She feels that he's connected somehow because she's seen 2025 and it was different. She tried telling her mom and her gran, but they said, she's like, you can't talk like that. Her mom actually called on the phone and they said that, it's like, you need to take her away. So Ruby's like, my own mother. And then, a coffee cup shatters. This is a light blue one. Again, doesn't matter. But I'm noticing, was there something with the colors? No, there's not. This one had some beverage in it. Shirley tells this dude, he's like, go get another one. So Shirley mentions that, she doesn't have a penny, but She has a state-of-the-art wheelchair. How's that possible? She has spinal bifida, and she needs medication, but she doesn't have any, yet she's fine. So this other person has they have this idea that they're all kind of suspended. This other guy, his theory is that it all comes down to Conrad Clark. And Ruby's like, I keep having thoughts of him too, and we see some minor flashbacks, but she can't really piece it together. She says she doesn't trust him for a second, and Shirley's like, you too? And others like, you can get arrested for saying things like that. And Ruby says that, she doesn't know why or how, but she thinks he's a monster. The one dude says that he thinks Conrad is hiding something. Ruby's like, well, because, how can someone like Conrad become a god? And Shirley asks, it's like, what are you thinking? Because they don't just sit around complaining. They have plans. So is she with them? And Ruby's like, yes, I'm in. So they're going to try to do something. But I don't think they really do anything. Stupid Conrad continues the story. The time lady had an idea. He said, it's not over, because I think there's a glitch. He's like, because I know a secret hidden way. And the secret came from the depths of Time Lord history. So the doctor's at home watching TV. Conrad's like, a secret so old and so terrible, everyone had forgotten. But the secret was beginning to wake. And there's a flicker of Susan. And Conrad's like, and the doctor said, tell me the secret. But the mysterious time lady was clever and wise, and she knew that Doctor Who was weak. So someone else cuts into the broadcast. I think, at first I was like, who is this guy? He's like, he looks kind of familiar, the way he's dressed differently. I think it was that guy Rogue. I think his name was Rogue. Was it Rogue? I'm trying to think. I was like, no, Rogue she's an X-Men. That's a girl's name. He was the bounty hunter dude early in the first season. I mean, it was the first episode, maybe. So where Rogue and the doctor had a big crush on him. The doctor never has a crush on anyone. That's weird. He's like, Doctor, can you hear me? I haven't got much time. They're coming. And this hell dimension is sliding into the pit. I don't know if I'm going to survive. Thank you for that, But I have to warn you, and I can only send you one warning, and this is going to sound strange, but listen to me. Tables don't do that. Remember, tables don't do that. I got to go. I miss you. Well, more than that. I love you. Wait, what? They knew each other for 5 minutes. I love you? And then so with this, why would he send this message, this warning, whatever? I don't understand his connection with all in this whole story. After, maybe we'll find out next episode, but here it makes no sense that he would give him this warning about tables. So stupid Conrad's transmission cuts back. And he's like, I warn you, Doctor, the secret will change reality forever. Belinda is woken by the sound of glass shattering. It continues. She comes down and sees the doctor is kneeling, or John Smith. He's kneeling at a table with a bunch of yellow mugs on it. There's broken bits all over the floor. She says something, and she's like, come to bed. And he moves a mug in the center, and he tells her to watch. And they're watch, and then shoop, it goes right through the table and shatters. He's like, did you see? And she's like, so? That's a slip. That's what happens. He's like, no. Then he moves, he moves 5 mugs in the center. And he's like, how did they slip? And she's like, it's just the way of the world, John. They always have and they always will. Now stop it. All 5. And he points to the TV. He's like, because he said, tables don't do that. And I thought, he's right. That is not what tables are supposed to do. And again, why would this guy be giving him this warning? So there's a big silence. And then Belinda's like, who said? Long pause. And then the doctor quietly is like, and I really liked him. So he's remembering, which is whatever. Belinda gets on the phone and she's like, hello, it's my husband. He's having doubts. So sirens, 3 cars approach. Belinda opens the door. He's in there. And he's like, no, I wasn't. I wasn't doubting anything. I just asked. I had a question. I had a good question. That's all. They pull him. They grab him by the arms, or pull his arms back. They cuff him. He's like, I am sorry. They start dragging him out. Belinda's like, I had to think of Poppy. I couldn't have doubts in the house with her upstairs. They put him in the back of a police car. Mrs. Flood is dressed as a police officer. She enters. I am really very sorry, Mrs. Smith, but I have a job to do. And Belinda's surprised to see Amma is there too. And she's like, what are you doing here? Mrs. Flood's like, there's a child asleep upstairs, and she's going to need someone with her in the morning. And then she, to the other officer, she's like, take her. So Belinda's like, what are you doing? Get off me. Leave me alone. And I was like, I'm so sorry, Belinda. I'm so sorry. And she's like, Mrs. Flood's like, you recognize your husband's doubt because you've been expressing doubt yourself. That's what it does, Mrs. Smith. It contaminates, it breeds, it festers, and it's my job to cut it out. I mean, she did run out to the woods and scream. Ruby, Shirley, and the others, they're watching the police cars go by. They're not sure what they can do. Then Shirley pulls out a tablet, and she says it's one of the relics from the other worlds. It's like, we think it can help us with Conrad Clark. So they look through the tablet, the camera, I guess. She's like, do you see the way the picture links up? Conrad's broadcasting from up there. If this thing can trace a signal, what if we can block it? And what if we can cut him off? There's another person in a wheelchair. I don't know if they said her name. Winnie, maybe? There's a Winnie. There's a couple other people. She's like, the plan is for Conrad to leave the Bone Palace. Then, once he's outside, Ruby's like, if I can just meet Conrad, if I can look him in the eye, then I'll remember. And there's some flashbacks. She's like, I just feel like I'll remember. And if I can remember everything, then I can remember the doctor and the world that was. The doctor and Belinda are taken by drones inside the bone structure. The doctor is told to step over the threshold, but he's scared for some reason. So he finally does it. He's in the main room. Ronnie's there. Doctor. Oh, yes, doctor. Remember? Oh, come on. We go way back. Open up that memory. There's he kind of gasps a little bit. She's like, what about this? There's this big circular thing in a wall. It's called the Seal of Rassilon. Rassilon was the president eternal of all the Time Lords. It's I wonder, I remember they've mentioned Rassilon's name so many times, especially in the Tom Baker days. It's did they ever show Rassilon? They must have. Because I remember some people on the council, whatever, maybe they did. And she's like, anything? No, nothing? It's and these things, clone-type classiforms, basic seeker function animals. So I think those are those grayish things, whatever. She's like, no. Is anything of this making any sense? So he's about to start begging and whatever. She's like, don't you ever wonder, deep down in both of your hearts, where your TARDIS is? TARDIS. And he's like, who are you? And Belinda's like, please, I have a child at home. Her name is Poppy, and I promise we won't mention any of this ever if you just let us go back and look after her. And Ronnie's like, no, you haven't. And Belinda's like, what? And Ronnie's like, got a child. And Belinda's like, I beg your pardon? And Ronnie's like, you haven't got a child. And she's like, don't you dare say that. And then the doctor's like, the girl, she said, and Ronnie's like, yes, that's it. You remember, what was her name? And he's like, Ruby. And Ronnie's like, oh, he's getting there. That's it. May the 24th. It's on its way. 9 minutes. Close down. Lock all externals. Ruby, Shirley, and the other person are looking up at the Bone Palace through the tablet. It's mounted on a tripod. It's where'd that tripod come from? Shirley says it's telling time, but she doesn't understand why and what's so important. Why is that important to tell time? Ronnie, she has something, I don't know if it's her sonic screwdriver. She points at a disco ball and she's like, music. So this orchestral music starts up. She takes the doctor by the hand. She's like, we danced once upon a time, you and I, at the siege of Persephone with the city burning around us. People said we were lovers. Can you remember if that's true? And he's just like stone-faced, he's dancing with her, but he doesn't know what's going on. Or maybe he's on the verge of remembering. And she's like, far away in time and space. It was like, were we? And he's starting to remember. And she's like, yes, I had a different face. So did you a long time ago. Because the tragedy is we were never enemies. Every villain you ever fought wanted death. I only wanted life. Remember? My name is Durrani. The music stopped. He kind of jerks back from her. He breathes shakily. He's like, no. And she's like, you remember? He's like, no. I am the Rani. No. Mrs. Flood walks up, and I am the Rani. We bi-generated. And both are like, we are both the Rani. The doctor falls to his knees, covers his ears. Belinda's like, what the hell are you saying? It's like, the two of you? It sounds like one of Conrad's stories. I think it was Mrs. Flood. She's like, or one of them says, your husband is an alien, and so am I. We are the last Time Lord and the last Time Lady from the planet Gallifrey in the constellation of what was it, Castor Boros? But this planet is a lie. This whole world is a wish. And the doctor's like, what are you even talking about? And Ronnie's like, oh, darling, I know this is hard. Come, come. And Belinda's like, leave him alone. Ronnie's like, but he made so much of this happen. He stirred the gods, Belinda. He woke the most ancient of powers. Come and see. He's like, I can't let you in. I don't trust you for a single second. But look, she hits her sonic thing. I'm assuming, again, is a sonic. And this door turns invisible. Conrad's standing there, like holding the baby. And doctor's like, Conrad? He's like, doctor? And doctor's like, why does everyone keep calling me that? Conrad's like, the last time we met, you told me I was nothing. So what do you think of me now? And it's like, who cares? It's like, you are a glorified babysitter. You are locked in a room. And Ronnie's like, it's the child, doctor. You woke the pantheon, and the most powerful god of all was born. This Desiderium or something like that, the god of wishes. Conrad's like, and he's mine. All the world below is a world I have wished. Ronnie's like, we needed one more thing. Come on. In the main room, she's like, no god of wishes should have infinite power, or we'd be drowning in a universe of breast milk. So I needed to boost his power, which led to the Vindicator. Hidden in plain sight. Do you remember? He like reaches for her and gets like some flashes. And she's like, gotta say, great bit of tech. I crisscrossed the universe, creating a web of power to bring you back here. Look at that. And energy is like, there's like this energy like forming above them, like showing. And she's like, voice that Bladden, energy to the power of 5, roughly equivalent of, and the doctor's like, 1 billion supernovas. And she's like, there. And Flood's like, he's remembering. Ronnie's like, so the Vindicator created a web of titanic power ready for me to use, power great enough to amplify the wishes of a god, allowing Conrad to create an entire world. The doctor's like, you cannot wish a whole world into existence? And she's like, exactly. It's full of mistakes and cannot sustain itself because you have doubts. He like thinks that the mug's shattering and slaps his head a few times. And he's like, doubts are not allowed. So Belinda's like, all right, yes, we have doubts. So what if we do? Everyone has doubts. Ronnie's like, oh, she's got it. She's very good because the truth is, and Flood's like, the doubts are not the problem. The doubts are the whole point. Ronnie's like, doubt is such a beautiful thing. If you question hard enough, then doubt can crack open the world. There's like this big rumbling. The doctor's like, what is happening? Ronnie's like, that's why I needed you trapped inside the wish, because it isn't just exposition, doctor. I needed to tell you everything so that your doubt becomes all-consuming. If ordinary doubt cracks open the world, then a Time Lord's doubt rips open the structure of reality itself. Come and see, quickly. It's like, out we go. So then Ruby's, she's like, look, they point up. From the balcony, we can see like purplish light, kind of like around buildings. And Ronnie's like, farewell to London. The doctor's like, this can't be happening. This is not real. And there's like portals have opened. It almost looks like upside down buildings or whatever. There's like debris and there's like energy and stuff like that. And Ronnie's like, the palace exists as a fixed point. It's safe. And the doctor's like, but you wish this world into existence and then you kill it? Why are you doing this? And Ronnie's like, Ronnie, because once reality is broken on a scale as vast as this, I can see underneath. And he's like, see what? And she's like, deep within the universe, he is hidden, the one who is lost. And the doctor's like, who? And she's like, oh, there she blows. Ruby, Shirley, and the other are watching the buildings. I don't know if they're like collapsing or something like that. Mel runs out of her house. Poppy's like lying in bed. And the doctor's like, tell me who you're looking for. And she's like, Omega. And then stupid Conrad is like, Omega, the first Time Lord, the creator of the Time Lords, the greatest and most terrifying Time Lord of all. Then in an ominous voice, long live Omega. Omega shall be free. When I was like just reading up on this, I think they said that was used from an audio something. That audio was like repurposed or something. I don't know if it was an audio pro show or something. So I guess I don't know anything about Omega. I don't remember anything about Omega, I should say. So we see flashes of the Doctor's incarnations, like all of them, and like all 17, including the War Doctor, including the what was it, the Runaway Doctor, whatever the one that I need to see more about during the Jodie Whittaker. I forgot her name. And then he opens his eyes. He whispers, "I remember. I remember the doctor is me. And the Ronnie, he turns, but he's alone on the balcony now and the door is locked. He's like pounding it. You can't do this. I remember. All right. I'm the doctor. I am the doctor. I was like, oh my God, Belinda. And inside, the Ronnie's like, get rid of the wife. Take her across the threshold. So the drones drag her away. And she's like, what are you doing? Where's John? Where is he? And the Ronnie laughs. She's like, there is no John. You married a ghost. Nice of you to join us, doctor. But I remember you too. And I know that you will try everything to stop me. So I can't take that risk. She squeezes her sonic and then there's like all these little explosives that they placed on top, above the balcony around the door. The balcony becomes unattached from like the structure, and it's just like whoosh, starts falling, and the doctor like gasps and he's like, Ronnie. Belinda is taking over the threshold. She like turns and looks, and then she disappears. It's like, where'd she go? Mel is out on the street. Amma and Poppy are in the kitchen. Rose, Shirley, and the other are like duck and scream because the buildings and lights and whatever. I don't know if they see the doctor following him up above, and I don't know if they're like right underneath them. The Ronnie and Mrs. Flood, they must be drinking champagne. Clink. They're like, toast each other, whatever. The doctor's still falling. But don't you understand? I have a daughter. Poppy is real. Don't you know what that means? I don't know what that means. I'm not sure what that means. He turns around and faces like the coming ground or whatever. He's like yelling or like that. And then the Vindicator on the clock reaches 12. To be continued. And that's the end of the episode. So, one more episode left in this season. Things are getting big and intense. Again, this is a big deal. I think that they're bringing back the Ronnie. So, I have no idea. And Omega, I don't know what this means. Are they going to bring back the Time Lords somehow? Can they? I don't know. If he's a first Time Lord and created, how did he create him? Where's Romana? I think I'm going to pause this. I'm going to look up where Romana is. But that was Doctor Who. The Last of Us Season 2, Episode 7, Convergence. It's the end of the season, and it's always exciting, but obviously, bittersweet because it's like we did it. We reached the end of the season, and what's the build-up? What's going to happen? And then cliffhanger, and now we got to wait till the next season. And it's like, when is that going to be? I mean, hopefully it won't be too long. I'm trying to think back, like, how long did we have to wait between Season 1 and Season 2? Season 1, the last episode, holy cow, is that right? March 12th, 2023? That can't be right. So 2023, March, so it's like 2 years? Wow, it does. Time flies, man. It did not seem like it was that long. So it's like, are we going to have to wait 2 years for the next season? Or was there any writer strike in between then? So maybe that slowed things down? Hopefully it'll be, if we can get it next year. I don't know. I mean, I don't know where they're at now. Like, have they started anything? Are they still in a writing stage? Do they know what they're doing? I mean, obviously they know what they're doing. Do they, you know what I'm saying? All right. So it starts off at the theater. The radio's on, from the Wolf's radio. Jesse's trying to tend to Dina's arrow, and she's like, "Don't let me die." He's like, "I know." And she's like, "You don't." And he pours some like alcohol like on her. It's whiskey. Pours some whiskey on her from a flask, and he says that he's gonna have to push it through because it's got a huge tip, the arrowhead, and I guess I mean if it's like is it a steel arrow? I don't know. So I guess you can't cut it or anything. But luckily there's like no things at the end like the flares or whatever. I don't know what they're called. And so he tries getting her the drink. He's like, "Here, take some." And she's like, "No." And she's like very insistent. So then he like pushes it through. So ouch. Yeah, I mean, there's some more to it. She's like, "No, don't hit an artery." And he's like, "I won't." She's like, "You don't know what you're doing." He's like, "I do," or whatever. So later he's like standing guard, and there's like a loud knock. So it's Ellie. And Jesse's like, "Where were you?" Because first he's like, "What's the name of your horse?" And he's like tries to get her to password type of thing. So she comes in. She just wants to see Dina,
And Jesse's like, she's in the dressing room. So Dina, she's sleeping on like this little sofa, and then she like wakes up, and Ellie like looks at her bandaged leg, and she's asked about the baby. She's like, is it okay? And she's like, it is. And she's like, how do you know? And she's like, I just do. And then Dina sees like some blood or something like in Ellie's back, so she asks her to like take her shirt off, and then with like a wet towel, she kind of like tends to like her back wounds, and I think it's just like scratch. I don't know if she was attacked by anything, if it's just scratches and stuff, whatever. So then she's like, Dina's like, you gonna tell me what happened? And Ellie's like, I found her. I found Nora. And Dina's like, good. Does she know where Abby is? And then Ellie's like, she only said 2 words, whale and then wheel. And Dina's like, what does that mean? And Ellie's like, I don't know. Like, maybe nothing. She was infected. It was already setting in. And she's like, I made her talk. And she's like, I thought it would be harder to do, but it wasn't. So there's flashback to her like pounding, like I think she was like slamming like Nora's legs or something like that. She's like, it was easy. It's like, I just kept hurting her. Dina's like, did you kill her? And she's like, no, I left her. And Dina's like, yeah, well, she got what she deserved. Ellie quietly is like, maybe she didn't. And she's like, it was a long time ago. Before I came to Jackson, there was a Firefly base in Salt Lake City. They had a hospital there. They were going to use me to make a cure, but it meant that I would have died. And Joel found out, and he killed everyone in the hospital. Everyone. He killed Abby's father. He was a doctor. And Joel shot him in the head to save me. Dina's like, so that's why they came. And Ellie nods. And Dina's like, did you know who they were? And she like shakes her head. She's like, but I knew what he did. And she's like, I'm sorry. And Dina's just like, we need to go home. And Ellie nods. And then Dina like lays with her back to Ellie. So Dina's not okay with this. And it's hard, it's a tough thing. And I'm not really sure where Dina's at with this. Is it just the cruelty, like how violent, or what? Not cruelty necessarily, the violent way that Joel saved her? I mean, did he have to kill everyone in the hospital? I mean, maybe he did. He wanted to make sure no one came after them. Or is she upset about the idea of the cure, that there could have been a cure, but Joel chose Ellie over the cure? But Dina should be happy that Ellie's alive. So I don't know. So next day, Seattle, day 3, they pack up. Ellie asks Jesse if he has any extra 9mm. He just like tosses her some ammo. And she's like, thanks. And he doesn't say anything. Dina hobbles in. Jesse's like, you should be on your feet. She's like, I'll go back in the couch in a second. And she goes to Ellie, and she's like, give me your wrist. And she puts this like bracelet thing on there. She's like, it's for good luck. And Ellie's like, not sure if it's been working for you. And Dina's like, I'm alive. Jesse's like, I could do this alone if you want Ellie to stay. Dina's like, no. Ellie's like, we'll be safer together. So Jesse's like, our rendezvous point's not far, assuming Tommy's there. We should be back well before sundown. And Dina's like, okay, good. And then he's like, you okay to barricade? She's like, yeah, go. And at first I didn't know what he meant by that, but he meant like put some stuff against the door so no one can come in. So Ellie and Jesse go, they walk in silence, and Ellie asks, it's like, where's the rendezvous? And he's like, the bookstore. And then she's like, you ever gonna tell me how you found the theater? And he's like, you ever gonna tell me what happened to you last night? So there's a little silence, and he's like, we followed the likeliest path into the city. Found a place where you stashed Shimmer. She's still there, doing all right. Not that you asked. Which is true. Ellie, like, doesn't even care. Like, no concern. And then we saw the WLF sign on the TV station. Figured that's where you went. Split up a 2 square mile area around it and began searching. That's how I found the theater. Ellie's like, oh, you make it sound easy. He's like, it took 2 days and a lot of close calls. And Ellie's like, thank you. I mean it, honestly. Look, I know you're angry. He's like, last night, Dina said, I can't die. Not, I don't want to die. I can't. And then I offered her some whiskey and she refused. Dina, the girl who's never turned down a free drink in her life. Seconds before I was going to push a crossbow bolt through her leg. And Ellie's like, that's weird. I don't know why she... He's like, yes, you do. I'm not stupid and I'm not blind. Ellie, I see the way you two look at each other. It's different now. Yeah, I bet she even tells you things that she wouldn't tell me, like how she's pregnant. And Ellie's like, fudge. And she kind of looks, and she's like, oh, poop, you were guessing? Oh, God, look. She's obviously going to tell you, so just act surprised, okay? None of this has to change things between us. And he's like, everything changing doesn't have to change things? So, well, how about this for something new? I'm going to be a father, which means I can't die. But because of you, we're stuck in a war zone. So how about we skip the apologies and just go find Tommy so I can get us and my kid the fudge out of Seattle. So they walk through the city. Ellie sees a Feel Her Love painting on the side of the building. She's like, there's more than one of her? He's like, I guess so. He's like, I don't know. He's like, we need to move faster because there's like the sound of thunder. And then soon it starts raining. They run into this like parking garage. And she's like, please tell me we're close. Jesse's like, I think we have 2 more blocks. He's like, let's give it a minute, see if it dies down. And then they like duck. They curse, they run. There's like voices shouting. And you're like, you're fudging dead, Scar. So Ellie and Jesse like duck behind like a dumpster or something in the park. It's like a parking garage, inside the parking garage. And a Scar, they're like, get on your knees. Then there's like, I think there's like maybe 2 armed wolves, maybe more. So he's like, the world is not in balance. I've done my part to right it. So they want to know, how'd you get past our line? The Scar is like, the world is not in balance. He like repeats himself. May she guide me, may she guide me. And the dude like hits him with the butt of the rifle. He goes down. Ellie looks at Jesse. He like shakes his head. So then they're like, take his clothes off. They start taking off. And he's like starting to scream. So he's not out completely. Ellie stands, but Jesse like, pulls her back down. He like shakes his head. Then they drag the Scar outside. And when they're gone, like Ellie grabs her arm away. She's like, get the fudge off. He's like, Ellie. And she marches towards the exit. He's like, Ellie. And she's like, what? He's like, there are 6 of them and 2 of us. So there's more than 2. And he's like, what do you think would have happened? And she's like, he's a fudging kid. He's like, Ellie, these people are shooting each other, lynching each other, ripping each other's guts out. Even the kids. I'm not dying out here. This is not our war. Let's go. So there's lots of armed people we see at a Costco. Elise, she was the one who was reporting that Hannah ran, or what about the elevator, that her son was down there when the infected, the airborne stuff. So she reports to Isaac. Because it says the storm is a convergence point, it's going to get even bigger. So orders have been relayed verbally, everything's set. So Isaac doesn't say anything. He like doesn't even look at her. He's just like kind of looking at the table, like probably like a map or something like that. And she's like, all the officers are on board, but I think the rank and file are a little scared. And he's like, aren't you? So Lisa's like, it'll be dark by 21:30. We'll start the staggered load. And he's like, any word on Abby? So she's like, not since yesterday, and we still haven't found Owen. Mel is missing now, too. So I was like, so her entire crew just disappears tonight of all nights. She's like, we still have Manny. He's like, well, we have a lot of Mannys, don't we? I'm not really sure what that means. Is Manny's worthless? He's like, and enough Owens and Mels, but only one Abby. So she's like, okay, what the fudge? She's a good soldier, great even, but we have an entire fudging army out there, and you're acting like she's the most important. What, you in love with her or something? And he like smiles. She's like, I mean, I don't know. You wouldn't be the first old man to. He's like, okay, no. So he motions for her to sit. He's like, by the time the sun comes up tomorrow, there's a very good chance you'll be dead. There's an even better chance I'll be dead. So then, what happens to that entire fudging army out there, who, despite their badass name, are very much sheep? Who leads them, secures our future? And she's like, well, she's fudged off, Isaac. And he's like, so maybe it wasn't. So like, I wasn't sure she went like, maybe it wasn't what? I don't know. Anyways, Jesse and Ellie enter like the bookstore. There's no Tommy. So he barricades the door. Jesse's stuff is there. And she's asked, it's like, what if he's in trouble? And Jesse's like, what if? He's in trouble. We're in trouble. Ellie goes over to like kids section. She looks at there's like just a few books there. She picks up this old Sesame Street Grover book, the monster at the end of this book. And she starts like looking through it. Jesse's like, you picked a good one. I should have thought of that. And she's like, listen, about me and her, I don't really know what to say. And he like holds up his hand. He's like, right now, we got a lot of problems. Like a wounded pregnant girl. Maybe Tommy's dead. Maybe we'll be dead. So let me at least get this one off the table. He's like, yes, I love her, but not the way you do. He's like, remember that group that stopped by Jackson a few weeks ago on their way south to Mexico? And she's like, from Alberta? She's like, yeah. He's like, there was this girl with them. She was a couple years older than me. I don't know if you remember. She was selling paintings, like landscape and poop. Ellie's like, were they good? He's like, no. I bought 4 of them. That's that fudging feeling when you're falling for someone and when they're falling right back. Ellie's like, so what happened? He's like, best 2 weeks of my life. But she couldn't stay. Didn't want to abandon her family like that. So she asked me to go with them instead. And I wanted to, more than anything. Ellie's like, then why didn't you? He's like, because the people of Jackson took me in, raised me, cared for me, because everyone there is counting on me to be the next Maria, because I was taught to put other people first. So Ellie's like, okay, got it. So you're St. Jesse of Wyoming and everyone else is a fudging a-hole. He's like, you can make fun of me all you want, but let me ask you this, Ellie. I go with that girl in Mexico. Who saves your ass in Seattle? So her radio goes off, and someone's on a radio like, they're under fire, South Lake Marina, sniper, not a scar, unidentified. And she did. Two of us are pinned down. We need backup. Like, no radios. Jesse's like, it's got to be Tommy. So they look on a map to see where South Lake is. They go up and get a look like over the city. They go up to the next level. And part of it's like all deteriorated so they can see outside. They can hear gunfire, and Ellie looks in binoculars, and she has this like shocked look. But then she's like, the wheel, because there's like a Ferris wheel like off like past the pier or something like that. And then the whale, there's a building with like a whale painting on it. Jesse's like, what? And then Ellie's like, she's in the fudging aquarium. He's like, who? It's like, Abby, the one who killed Joel. She's in the aquarium. It's too far to swim. We need a boat. So I think it's like on an island or something, or I don't know. And so I guess she doesn't care that Tommy's in trouble. He's like, what are you talking about? And she's like, what? And he's like, no, Tommy's, over there. He's like, that's where we're going. And she's like searching for like how to answer. She's like, we don't know that's him. He's like, yes, we do. She's like, we don't. And even if it is, he's got them pinned down. And just like, for now, they call for backup. And she's like, then he'll pin more of them down. It's like, I know him. He would want me to do this. I don't know if he would. Maybe. And Jesus, if 3 more people had voted with you, you'd be coming with me. So here it comes, right? He's like, I voted no. And she's like, why? He's like, because everything you do for you. And she's like, oh my God. He's like, Ellie? She's like, oh my God. He's like, Ellie, it wasn't in the best interest of the community. Fudging community. All you do is talk about the fudging community. You hypocrite. She's like, you think you're good and I'm bad? You let a kid die today, Jesse. Because why? He wasn't in your community? Let me tell you about my community. My community was beaten to death in front of me while I was forced to fudging watch. So don't look at me like you're better than me or like you'd do anything differently if you were in my shoes, because you're not and you wouldn't. And then the gunshots like continue. Jesse like stares at her. And he's like, I really hope you make it. He turns and he goes to find Tommy. She like turns and she just like looks at the like where the aquarium is. So Dina is sitting at the theater. Isaac's like shaving. And then we see Ellie, she's reached like the water part, like the docks. She sees a Ferris wheel in the distance. It's still a ways away. She hears some voices down there. So she aims her little pistol, even though she's way too far to hit them. Then some lights turn on. Like 7 boats come up, like full of soldiers. They load some stuff up or whatever. Then they turn off their lights and they head towards somewhere else. At first I was like, are they going where the Ferris wheel is? That's not good. And so Ellie goes, there's this, of course, there's a little like motorboat on the water. She starts the engine and she goes out. The water's like super choppy. There's like lightning and everything that's striking all over. And then she's going, it's raining. This big wave approaches her. She tries going like alongside of it, but then whoosh, it tips over and then it kind of goes black. Then it looks like the boat somehow washed up on shore perfectly, on the beach. It's not even secure or anything, but it's there. And then she makes it too. She swims out. She like looks up and there's a kid in a cloak, sees her. And then he goes into the woods, he whistles. So they're scars. So it's a little kid scar. So more come, and then they grab her, and she sees, they're like dragging her into the woods. She sees like a noose, like hanging. There's like fire, torches, and there's a group of people. This woman with a curved blade's like standing before her, and she yells at Ellie's like, she's like, I'm not from here. I'm not a wolf. And then like to the kid, she's like, tell them. The kid makes a motion like on his chest, and he's like, whoosh. So I don't know if he meant like, if it means like disembowel her. So even this little kid that, he's like, kill her. And there's supposed to be like some like symmetry or whatever, where she was trying to save that Scar kid in the parking garage, yet they're just like kill her because they're just things are so different. So the lady smiles, the noose goes around her neck, and then they start stringing her up, and she's like struggling, trying to keep her feet on the ground, go on her toes and everything. And there's like this big noise, like some alarm. It's almost like a big horn, or something like. And then the lady's like, the village. They're like, leave her. So dude lets go the rope, and she falls down. They grab some torches, and we see Joel's gun is still nearby. She goes back to the boat that is conveniently still washed up on shore. She sees like some big explosions behind her. I'm not sure what that was. If it's the city, if it's the wolves, if it's the scars, whatever. It's still raining. There's still lightning. She gets back on a boat, goes back towards the aquarium. She makes it there, climbs up this ladder. She's looking for like a way to get like onto the roof to go inside. She starts climbing up like different things. And she has a light on her shoulder, which is super bright. She goes to a skylight that's busted, of course. She climbs down, drops onto a table that's conveniently like right there, so it's not that far of a drop. She takes the bullets out of her revolver and she dries them with a towel, because you can't shoot wet bullets or something like that. I don't know if it matters the inside or is it gunpowder, whatever. I don't know. So then she looks around. She has her stupid, super bright flashlights on her shoulder. It's like secured under, or like on her chest, shoulder, whatever. So I don't know if it's like a hospital or something like that, because there's like surgery tables, there's bloody rags, and it's like some bloody tools. She walks down past like this hallway, there's like wires and pipes and stuff like that. Then there's some stairs that go up to, I think it's like the main floor of the aquarium. She sees some footprints. It's like, are they wet, like recent footprints? So she turns off her light finally. She's like going in there. There's some voices talking. And it's like, for her, so don't make me sound like I'm being some kind of heartless witch. I'm not. And let's be honest, this isn't about them anyways, Owen. You're talking about being behind enemy lines alone at night. This is suicide under normal circumstances. And you want to do this now? Do you even understand what's going on? So at first, because then Ellie like peeks around the corner, she can see like a man and a woman. I was like, who is that? Is that Abby? So it's actually Mel and Owen. So two of the other people are here. So Owen's like, I understand everything, but I don't have a choice, do I? It's Abby. And Mel's like, of course you have a choice, and so do I. And I am choosing no, also because it's Abby. And Owen's like, fine, I'll do it on my own, like always. I can make it there and back in 30. If you're still here, you can get on board and keep going with us. If you're not, you're not. So again, Elise said to Isaac that Mel and Owen were missing too. So I don't know, because they don't know where Abby's at. So they're doing something. They're going somewhere maybe. So he's like, if you're, you can go with us. If you're not here, you're not. And Mel's like, fudge you, Owen. So then Ellie comes out with her gun. She's like, hands up. She's like, where's Abby? Owen's like, you got to be kidding me. And she like points the gun at him. He's like, okay, easy. He's like, I'm the one that kept you alive, right? He's like, we don't know where she is. And Ellie's like, you were just talking about her. So, yes, you fudging do. And then to Mel, she's like, you, bring me that map. You're going to point to where Abby is, and then you're going to do it, Owen. And it better fudging match. So that's smart thinking. Owen kind of like turns and looks at Mel, and Ellie's like, you have 5 seconds. 4. Owen's like, she's going to kill us either way. And Ellie's like, no, I won't, because I'm not like you. 3. And then he like looks back at Mel again. It's like, is he trying to mouth something to her? Ellie's like, 2. He's like, I'll do it. I'll show you. And she's like, slowly. So he looks at Mel again, and then he starts to turn. But then he reaches down for a gun. Ellie shoots. Owen goes down. Then I think it was Mel. She's like, oh God. And Mel like looks behind her at the wall. There's like a bullet hole in the cabinet, but there's like 2 shots. So like, where's the other one? I don't know. And then it looks like on the side of her neck, she got hit. So, I mean, there's some blood. I don't know how deep it was. I don't think it's still there. And she goes down. And she's like, knife. Do you have a knife? And she's like, I have like 30 seconds. Get the fudge over here. Please, please, please. Life. She's like, you're going to take it out. And Ellie goes down. She's like, what? She's like, I don't know how to do that. And she's like, I do. 1 incision. That's all it is. And then be sure to tie the cord. Work fast. And I'm like, wait, what? Is there a bullet in her neck? She's going to tie what cord? What are you talking about? But you probably figured it out, right? And she's like, how deep? And Mel's like, deeper than you think. And she's pregnant, in case you didn't figure it out. And then Ellie's like, which way? And then she's like, low transverse. And Ellie's like, what? She's like, I don't know what that means. Low transverse. And she's like, what? Tell me what that means. So low transverse is for like a C-section. And she's like, you're doing good. You're doing really good. And Ellie like shakes her head. And Mel's like, is it out? And Ellie just has like tears. And Mel's dead. So Ellie didn't cut at all because she didn't know what to do. Ellie's like crying and like takes her hand. She sobs. And you just see like blood dripping like on the floor towards a grate on the floor. And then Ellie, Tommy and Jesse arrive. Tommy like sees the mess. He's like, oh God. And she looks at Tommy like in shock. She's like shaking a little. And he's like, let's go. She's like, come on. He helps her up. And Jesse like stares at his two bodies as they like walk by. So then back at the theater, Dina moves like the sofa out of the door. Tommy comes in and he looks at her and they hug. Then Jesse comes in. Then Ellie comes in last, just like kind of walks straight past Dina. She's in a daze, like in shock. Then later, Dina's like resting in the dressing room. Tommy and Jesse are trying to figure out a path out of the auditorium, hoping that it'll be like better weather tomorrow. And then Ellie comes in and like sits like on the stage. Tommy goes to her. He's like, hey, he's like, you know they were part of it too. They made their choices. That's all there was to it. And she's like, but Abby gets to live. He's like, yeah. Are you able to make your peace with that? And she's like, guess I'll have to. And then she like looks at Jesse, and because he's like ticked off, obviously. And Tommy's like, I'm going to start packing duffels. So he leaves the theater. He goes up. Ellie and Jesse are alone. And then she's like, thank you for coming back. And he's like, maybe I didn't want to. Maybe Tommy made me. And then she's like, did he? And he's like, nope. And she's like, because you're a good person. He's like, yeah. But also, the thought did occur. If I were out there somewhere, lost and in trouble, you would set the world on fire to save me. And she nods. She's like, I would. And then they hear something, like some noise or something like that. So they run up the aisle, bust open the door to the lobby. Bam! Jesse friggin' gets shot and goes down. Dead. Shot in the head. I mean, it's clear. He's dead. It's confirmed. And like Ellie kind of like ducked off to the side, and you hear a woman's voice, stand up. Stand up. Hands in the air, or I will shoot this one too. Tommy's on the ground, and she's pointing a gun to him. He's like, just run, Ellie. So the woman holding a gun on Tommy, she's like, shut the fudge up. Ellie's like, stop. And she tosses the gun out and comes out, hands up. It's friggin' Abby. So Abby sees her. She's like, you. And Ellie's like, just let him go. And she's like, he killed my friends. And Ellie's like, no, I did. I was looking for you. I didn't mean to hurt them. I know why you killed Joel. He did what he did to save me. I'm the one that you want. Just let him go. Abby looks, she's like, I let you live. And you wasted it. And Ellie's like, no. Abby raises a gun. Fade to black. And it's like, what? And it's just like black. And then there's kind of like ringing. And then we see Abby sleeping on a sofa. And like someone knocks, you up? And she's like, well, yeah, now. And the guy's like, cool, all right, come on. Isaac wants to talk to us. And she's like, okay. She's like, just let me wake up. She's like, I'll be there in 5 minutes. And the guy's like, all right. He's like, your funeral if you make him wait. And then she comes out. She goes into this other room. She steps out like sort of like on a, not really a balcony or whatever, but it's like a box. She's at a stadium. So it's kind of like the, box seat section or whatever. And you see like, there's like a garden, there's like machinery, there's like all this stuff inside this, it's like crazy. And then Seattle, day one. So what does that mean by day one? Does that mean like day one when Ellie and Dina got there? So is the next season, are we, because I did hear somewhere like we're going to see like Abby's story. So does that mean, because I guess technically it was what, the third day? So 7 episodes to tell, oh, it wasn't 7 episodes. Because they did the flashback ones too. So, I don't know. But, jeez, now we gotta wait. So that was a crazy episode.
I mean, I guess it was a great season. I don't like what happened to Joel. I mean, it sucks. It's heartbreaking. But and Ellie can be so friggin' annoying, but she does care. And she didn't want to kill those other, which is weird because she was so easily to hurt Nora. And she shot Owen. She didn't want to, but he made a move. She definitely didn't want to. I don't think she wanted to hurt Mel. And she said she wouldn't have hurt them. But what, they're going to say, like, yeah, Abby's here. And she's just going to say, okay. And she's going to turn around and hope they don't, like, get on a radio or phone. Or do they have phones? No. Get on a radio and call her. So I don't know. That was heavy. And it's like, what is Isaac? What are all those guys in a boat? Where are they going? What's happening? There's still so much. And that's what's interesting about the end of this season, because it's not really like a definitive ending of a season. We're still like in the middle of this current story. At least with the first season, it's like Joel saves Ellie. They're heading off into the wild blue yonder together, starting in search of their next adventure. But it was settled. Here, huge cliffhanger, because like, did Ellie just get shot? Is there no more Ellie? And maybe if you play the games, But I doubt they're going to do that. I don't know. But she did raise a gun and shoot, unless she shoots off to the side. I don't know. What if, right? That was The Last of Us. Oh, my goodness. All right. Star Wars Andor, Season 2, Episode 7, Messenger. The reason I'm kind of laughing is I'm only on Episode 7. And so there's 6 episodes, five episodes after this. So that if I'm doing one a week, that's 5 more weeks. This is like the longest after the fact coverage. The only thing is with Last of Us ending, and then Doctor Who has 1 more week. I mean, if nothing else starts up, and then maybe I can do 2 episodes a week or something. We'll see. And plus, school's gonna be out soon. But so now, since we're at episode 7. Every 3 episodes, after every 3rd episode, it jumps a year. So now it's 1 year later, and it's BBY2. So we're getting closer. Basically, we're getting closer to Rogue One and all that stuff. Because with 7, 8, 9, those will go together, and then it's going to jump a year for 10, 11, 12, and then that will lead right into Rogue One, basically. So it starts off, and it's crazy it's a year later. We're at a Yavin rebel base. So I was talking to a listener who's he was one of the people who wanted to hear about Andor, and he was saying that. So one of my kind of jokey complaints was in the first 3 episodes when Andor stole the TIE fighter, the new TIE, and he lands on that planet where he's supposed to hand it off, but they got rid of him. Or whatever. He said that he heard that planet was Yavin, and I was like, wait, what? And he mentions like yeah, you could see the temples in the background, and I totally missed that. Probably when he landed or took off, maybe at some other points. I mean, I thought I was paying attention, but I must have missed that. I don't know if that's going to come up. Those people, and. Yeah, but again, my complaint about that, I'm not trying to knock the show, because I love how all the detail and everything that they do in this, and I think that's part of what's taken me so long, because I feel like there's so much, but I also complain that like not a lot happens, but there's a lot of it's weird. I can't really, it doesn't make any sense that a lot happens but a little bit is happening or something like that, and. Yeah, so but my complaint is like, we got all these people, and I'm trying to remember, like, hey, what's this person's name, and then Andor just leaves the planet, and then it's like, wait, are we never going to see them again? Do they matter? We're now at a Yavin rebel. The rebels are on Yavin. They're kicking things into gear. Things are moving along, which makes sense, because as we're getting closer, the rebels are the Rebel Alliance, whatever. If they're even calling themselves that at this point, it's getting bigger. So his big ship lands. Several people get out, including Willman. So last time we saw him, he was with Saw Gerrera. So I'm not really sure what he's done in between then. Maybe we'll find out. Cassian's kind of like in this sort of hut, like in the woods, like, on Yavin. And he's like rotating his like arm or his shoulder. You can tell he's in pain. Bix comes out and tells him to take his shirt off. He's like, oh, I'm going to be late. And so she looks in the back. It looks like there's a gash, but it's like a blaster burn. So something happened to him. Like, how did that happen? And then Willman arrives. He goes and meets him. They like all hug and stuff. Andor says that they were gonna send out a search party because they hadn't seen him in a while. And so once they're inside, he's like, where have you been? Willman's like, here and there. And Cassian then again, he's like, where have you been? And Bix's like, oh, he just got in. Let him get settled or whatever. And Cassian's it's like, oh, she was more worried than I was or something like that. But then he's like, where were you? And Willman's like, Luthen wants to know if you're ready to work. And Cassian stares at him. He's like, ready for what? And Luthen's like, he knows you're hurt. And Cassian's like, if he does, it's because you told him. And then Willman's like, he's been trying to reach you. And Bix, and she's like, ready for what? She repeats that. And Willman like, he just wants to know if he can count on you. And Bix is like, well, he's not making it easy. And Willman's like, whose fault is that? It's like, you trust this place? All these people you faces every day? And Cassian's like, we need an army. He's like, everything's a risk. And Willman's like, all we do here is get ready. Luthen is making things happen. He's like, is he? What do you want, Will? You want to fight or you want to win? Going it alone doesn't cut it anymore. And then Willman's like, well, maybe you should tell him yourself. And Cassian's like, maybe you should tell us where you've been. But he's like, he won't tell him. On Gorman, the reporters, news, whatever. There's all these people like in a plaza. There's different reporters there with their little droid cams. It's kind of funny. It's like almost like people talking on their cell phones when they record themselves. They look silly. So there's reporters talking about like the inexplicable Gorman resistance to imperial norms. Terrorism strikes again. Imperial casualties, all this stuff. Cyril's walking across the plaza, so he's still there. And I think he has to show his ID. There was a firebombing last night, so things are getting locked up. There's lots of you see there's soldiers, and we're starting to see more stormtroopers like popping up. There's this other reporter as he's walking, talking about a curfew that's being set up. So far, there's no statement or claim of credit from any local terrorist groups, so they don't know who's making all this commotion. Cassian's with the Willman. He's like, Gorman. He's like, for Luthen. So Willman's been on Gorman. He's like, all these side runs. That's what you've been doing. And Willman's like, it's being destroyed. And Cassian scoffed. He scoffed so many times. He's like, he must be thrilled. He wanted it long enough, dragging you out here, out there. He's like, for what? Help him torch the place? Willman's like, it's not like that. Not now. He's like, it's the Empire with the torches. They've gone insane. And Cassian's like, so what does he need me for? Willman takes out a data pad. He's like, her. ISB supervisor Dedra Miro. She destroyed Ferrix. She killed my father. And in the Bix, he's like, do you know her? And she looks at the data pad. He says that she's there in Gorman in the open. I've seen her. She's there now, and she's waiting to be killed. And I know you're going to say it's for revenge, but it's not. She's been coming for Luthen since Ferrix. She's been coming after him, and you, and all of us, and everyone we know. She's just sitting there, Cass. She keeps winning. She has to be stopped. And Cass hits the table, gets up, and he's like, I'm late for my briefing. He's like, you need to calm down and check in. Willman's like, you act like Luthen's the enemy. And Cassian's like, that would be easier. And he walks out. And in the Bix, Willman's like, she's a monster. It's like, we won't have a better chance. And Bix is just silent. So Dedra sits by screen. Partagaz comes on. He's like, oh, sorry to keep you waiting. He's like, the Emperor has taken a great interest in the situation. Director Krennic's still with him now, but they wanted me to pass along the affirmative message to you immediately. We are moving forward with the original plan. There is apparently no suitable replacement or synthetic alternative for the Gorman substance material. And she's like, I see. He's like, it's not for lack of effort. Krennic's had the lab in Yadu working overtime all year. I don't know the science, but it's bad luck, Gorman. We need what's in the ground, and when we're done, there won't be much left to call home. So Dedra just kind of thinks, she's like, when? Part of the guy's like, the fleet will be fully positioned in 48 hours. We'll need a declaration of martial domain as soon as possible. So Cyril enters the building, and the Imperial investigator guy who searched his office before, when he said there was a listening device, he kind of steps in front of him, and Cyril's like, where is she? He's like, she's unavailable at the moment. And Cyril's like, I asked you where. So then he looks at, there's this other guy like standing in front of the doorway too. Partagaz says, Captain Kaido is arriving today. And she's like, he's here. He's outside my office. Who is he? And so I'm assuming that's the second Imperial, the dude who was in the doorway. He's a crisis specialist. He'll be bringing a variety of personnel to help manage the situation. And Dedra's like, we have plenty of security. What I need now is some clarity on how exactly. He's like, Dedra, calmly. Let the image of professional ascendance settle your nerves. A successful conclusion to this problem will reinforce the ISB's position at the Emperor's side. You've done excellent work bringing this forward. Everyone that matters knows how well you played this. Captain Kaido knows the objective. He will answer to you operationally, but the tactical details, however, will be at his discretion. And she's like, you're aware, sir, that the insurgents have weapons at this point? We're counting on it. And then outside the communications room in the hall, Cyril goes up to her. She walks out. He's like, bombing at the naval depot? He's like, I can't even get in there. And she's like, it's being investigated. Cyril's like, the rumor is it's a setup. And Dedra's like, they're running it down. And Cyril's like, who? And who's this tactical guy in your control room? So she pulls him aside because they're in the hall. So they go in this little like kind of doorway or something. Because there's like people that occasionally walk by. She's like, there's evidence of outside agitators. He's like, you're serious? That's what I came here for. Like, that is what I've been trying to do since I got here. That is what you told me you wanted. And now there's evidence I have to beg for? She's like, we're trying to prevent an incident. He's like, by keeping me in the dark, my sources say that this is nonsense. She's like, stop. Like, says quietly. And he's like, what am I doing here? Cyril, please. He's like, you need to go home and pack and be ready to leave when I tell you. And he's like, what? She's like, good things are waiting for us. We'll be out of here soon. We'll be back in Coruscant. We'll be together. We'll be rewarded. And he's like, for what? What have we accomplished? She grabs his face and she kisses him. And she's like, be careful. And he's like, me? And she's like, do what I told you. And she walks away. So Mon, and I don't know if it's her aide or some dude, they get out of her car. And then I don't know, this Cloris, I don't know if it was her driver. At first I was like, wait, is this like a valet dude or something like that? But he asks if she's going to the office today. And she's like, eventually, it's lovely out, so, they'll walk. And then this Cloris guy, he's like, it's just, they're asking for schedules this week, parking and movement. And Mon's like, who's asking? And Cloris is like, Senate security. And she's like, ridiculous. I'll speak to them. Thank you. And as they're walking away, she says to the dude, she's like, I'm requesting a new driver. And the guy's like, don't. They might send someone smart. Things are, I guess, tense everywhere. The Senate news leads. There's news about Gorman again. Reports of another terrorist attack overnight. There's a series of explosions rocked a naval terminal in Palmo. We see Mon walks. There's lots of security. The news reports continues. More talk of terrorists. When they arrive at the Senate building, like downstairs, Senator Oran stops her and says he's been waiting to talk to her. So I guess he's from Gorman. So he's kind of bummed over how things are being handled. She says that they're going to sign some petition for some oversight, something. And he says it takes more than failed legislation to upset him these days. So he came here to thank her for the courage that she shows and the brave face that she puts to the world. He says that he's done a poor job in letting her know how much he admires her grace and energy. And he tells her to protect herself. And then she heads up to, the Senate room. I'm assuming that's where they went. We never saw anything. Dedra, she's just staring out the window. The Gorman resistance are talking. They're actually arguing. So Carl's, he's there. They're all there. Carl's like the dude in charge. He's talking like dignity, and the others are arguing with him, and some are arguing with him and against him. There's just a lot of argument. This other guy yells to cut them off. He's like, look at what they've done to us. He's like, what they've reduced us to. It's like, we're hiding in a basement. It's like, we are the gore. If they take that from us, then what's worth saving? So he's trying to get them to stop arguing amongst themselves. Then we see there's this, I don't know if she's a force healer to some lady on Yavin. Because I saw a post somewhere, I don't remember if it was on Threads or Reddit. Someone said something about the force and how, because we don't really get any of the force in Andor, but there's this lady, so I think she's supposed to be a force healer. maybe the comment, I didn't want to read it because I didn't want it to be spoilers, but I think someone said how maybe we've never had force healers before, so this might be the first time they're like actually showing that, because I don't know. So Cassie and Bix like walk towards this like kind of this busy area, and he tells her that she could have asked him, and she says that he would have just said no. Then he's like, then what are we doing here? And she's like, what's the harm? He's like, you're lucky Marva is not here. That's his mom. She's like, I'm not the one she'd be straightening out. And he's like, she hated force healers. And Bix is like, she hated one force healer 10 years ago. He's like, one was enough. And Bix is like, it doesn't mean the whole thing's a scam. They wouldn't be faking something if it never worked. He's like, why not? What does that even mean? She's like, you know what I don't understand? If I was in pain, I'd try to do everything I could to fix it. You just run around pretending like nothing's wrong, and everyone knows that's not true. It's like, what's the risk? So then the healer like sees him, and she like approaches him, and he's like, what is this? And she's like, I don't know. He's like, you set me up. And she's like, no. And what does he do? He scoffs. And then the lady's like, who are you? And Cassie's like, nobody. I was just walking home. We're just leaving. And she's like, can you wait, please? And she tells the others, she'll be right back. And she's like, sorry. And Bix is like, for what? The lady's like, I was about to ask how I know you, but I'm realizing now that's not it at all. And Cassie's like, I'm already late. And to Bix, he's like, I'll see you back there. And as he kind of turns, but Bix is like, he's got a blaster burn that's not healing. And the lady's like, your right shoulder? And then Bix says to him, she's like, tell her. He's like, yes. And she's like, may I? She slowly approaches him, like very slowly puts her hand like on his shoulder, like closes her eyes. Cassian like looks at Bix, he just stands there, and she removes her hand. She's like, thank you. And he's like, thank you for what? And the lady's like, the clarity, that feeling, it's been a very long time. I thought it had gone for good. It's so easy to lose faith. They come no matter what. But talking about the other people. Sometimes it even works. But this, you, all that, you've been gathering, the strength of spirit. Surely you must feel it. And he's like, I'll work on that. I'll come back and let you know. Bix is like, you saw something. And he whispers to Bix, he's like, why do you keep pushing? And she's like, why are you so upset? He's like, I asked you not to do this. And he's like, stay if you want. And he leaves. So then Bix says to the healer, she's like, you scared him. And the lady's like, I'm sorry. And Bix is like, it's not easy to do. She's like, who is he? And Bix is like, a pilot, a soldier. Tell me what you saw. And she's like, I sensed the weight of things I can't see, pain, fear, need. Most beings carry that shape with them, carry the past. But some, very few, your pilot, they're gathering as they go. There's a purpose to it. He's a messenger. There's some place he needs to be. Have you known him long? And Bix is like, I don't remember not knowing him. And the healer's like, maybe you're the place he needs to be. And she like slowly, like hesitantly puts her hand on Bix's hand, and then she goes back to the queue of people waiting. Cyril's like waiting in an alley to talk to Enza. So Enza's Carol, the resistant dude's daughter. And it's like, they're like some back alley, whatever. And then she's like, don't you know there's a curfew? And he's like, I needed to see you. And she like goes a turn, but he grabs her arm, and she's like, then have a good look. And he's like, I think there's a way out of this before things go too far. My people are convinced you're being coordinated by outside agitators. If I had something to offer, if we could lay this off on outsiders, then she like slaps him. But again, when people are getting slapped, was it last week someone got slapped? She was wearing gloves or something like that, so it wasn't that hard of a slap. She just like walks away, and he's like left standing there. Cassian's looking at the blaster burn in the mirror at their place. Bix returns because he's like rotating his arm in that, and he like scoffs. He like scoffs. There's no one even there. I don't think he knows she's there, but he just scoffs. And she's like, "It's better, isn't it? That must be confusing." She asked me who you were. I said you were a pilot, and he like shakes his head. He's like, "Don't tell people what I do." And Bix is like, "What happened when she touched you?" He scoffs again. He's like, "She's a cook in a mess hall." And Bix is like, "And you're more than a pilot." Cassian's like, "It's ridiculous." And Bix says, "She knew you were there. she felt it from across the yard. She wasn't making that up. It's like, that wasn't a scam. He's like, what was it then? And she's like, I don't know. I don't even think she knows, but it happened and I could sense it. And I'm not afraid to say that. He's like, I felt it before, Cass. She called you a messenger. I've had dreams of that. Why are you doing this? And she's like, what if it's important? I know you felt something. That's why you're so upset. And she's like, let it in. It can only be good. There's no other reason. A big rebel hangar. Cassian is like loading up. He's preparing to leave, like on his ship. It's Wilman. They're just putting whatever you put on the ships before you leave. There's like a big tank. I'm assuming it's fuel. I don't know. This dude like walks up. He's like, what's all this? Cassian's like, we filed an exit plan. And the dude's like, without a destination. So he's someone in charge. And Cassian's like, it's a personal trip. And the dude's like, the ship's to be fitted with hypercoms tomorrow. Cassian's like, we'll be back soon. The guy's like, that is unacceptable. And you know it. This isn't a base for privateers. Those who enjoy the security of Yavin must proclaim their loyalties. And Cassian's like, don't push too hard. You know where I stand. The day I need permission to come and go, I'm gone. The guy's like, that day is near. And he kind of grits his teeth. Cassian, Cassian gets in. He makes like strong eye contact, like pushes the door shut, shuts the door, hits a button, and the door shuts as he's staring at him. He's like, doesn't even say anything. And that said so much. On Gorman, there's like this armored transport, like in a plaza. There's like, I don't know if they're soldiers or officers, but it's like probably security. Like the one guy in charge, he's like makes this comment to someone else because someone's like, make sure these men are in shape. And he's like, I don't see a single man amongst them. And then the guy's like, am I going to have a problem with you? And Dedra's like with the one, I don't know if he's a tactical guy, whatever, the guy that was searching Cyril's office for the listing thing. And she's like, what? She's like looking at him. She's like, they look like children. So I don't know, who they are, because there's other stormtroopers there, but they must be more security or something. They're just bringing in. And again, are they purposely bringing in incompetent people because they want this to go poorly? Cassian and Wilman are in the ship flying over a planet. They don't tell us what planet at this point. Andor's, he's messing with him or something like that. He's just like, he starts looking at Wilman and he's like, he's like, look, watch where you're going. He's like getting nervous. And then Cassian says like, well, you said to come in low. So he's like flying really low over the mountains and that. Bix is sitting in her place. You hear someone walking. It's Vel. So we haven't seen her since Cinta was killed. Bix is like, oh, I haven't seen you in a while. And Vel's like, well, I'm here now. She's like, I'll be around. I'm doing intakes, scaring the new recruits. And Bix is like, no more smuggling. And Vel's like, I needed a break. And Vel's like, it's good to hear you say that. And Vel's like, I was getting reckless. So Bix motions for her to sit. And she's like, you're looking for Cassian, aren't you? And she's like, no, they sent me to talk to you, Draven, Dodana. And she's like, they need him, Bix. They're on the verge of promoting him. And then he goes into something like this morning. He's like, I know you. I know how deeply you believe in what we're doing. We're not Luthen's puppets anymore. We're not a bunch of maniacs running around. I think she's running around Aldhani. It's like, we're building a real army. Cassian is a leader now. A little discipline doesn't seem too much to ask. And Bix just kind of nods. She's like, he'll be there when you need him. And Vel's like, I'll pass that along. On Gorman, there's like stormtroopers. You see stormtroopers out there now. People are, I don't know if they're trying to leave. If it's a station, I don't know what's going on. There's people, but I think they need to show ID, and you can tell things are getting tense. Cassian and Wilman are there. So he must have just arrived or entered through their point. And he's like, when did this happen? And Wilman's like, it's been a few months. He's like, I got to get going. And Cassian's like, what if the comms don't work? And Wilman's like, we'll test first thing. He's like, if that's a fail, we meet here. Our secondary would be the ship. So Cassian says, like, which floor? She's like, second floor and third room from the left or something like that. And then Wilman's like, the locals say that she's on the plaza once or twice a day. She's easy to spot, but she doesn't stay any place very long. And Cassian's like, the glass, it might need 2 shots. And Wilman's like, I don't know. It's old. He's like, but I can ask. And he's like, all right, here comes my guy. And then Cassian's like, comms first thing. So then they split up. So Cassian checks into a room. he says his name is Ronnie Guja, and the dude, it's the same dude. He checks in the same hotel, I guess, because it's like the bellhop dude, but he's behind the counter now. But he doesn't say anything. He's like he looks at his papers. He's like, I don't see an entry stamp. And he's like, journalists require imperial approval. And Cassian's like, I know, yeah. He's like, I just got in. And the dude's like, you'll have to go over there tomorrow and sort it out. There's a lady at the next terminal. She's like, we're required to notify them. And Cassian's like, of course, yeah. And she's like, then she says, the Alderaan group, their shuttle has been canceled. And the other guy's like, again? He's like, good luck with that. So then the dude tells Cassian that he's got a room. It's like second floor, or I think it was second floor. It's like on the front corner or something like that. Cassian's like, perfect. And the guy's like, well, not many guests will say that because it can get loud. He's like, well, I'm a deep sleeper. And then quietly he's like, she will report it. And Cassian's like, good to know. And then he's like, you'll have to carry your own bags this time. He's like, you know the way. Does he may not remember his name, but he obviously remembered Cassian. And it seems like he's on his side. He's like, she's going to report it. So Cassian, he's in his room. He looks out his window, and then he can see the building, the Imperial building. There's like, someone in one of the rooms. So he turns off his lights. Willman, he's with the Gorman rebels, like in the basement place. And then he uses the comm to call Cassian, they test it out. So he's going to talk to him tomorrow with a new, they do like weather stuff, so like new weather report tomorrow or whatever. So Cassian opens the suitcase. Under the clothes, there's like a hidden compartment. It's full of like guns, or maybe it's pieces of a sniper or whatever, maybe he's got to assemble it. He looks through like a little telescope thing at the Imperial building. He opens a patio door and you can hear voices. It's like, sounds like stormtroopers. So he uses one of those, like, I don't know what you call them, like mirrors on a stick that you check like under cars and stuff like that. And he looks up, there's like two stormtroopers on a roof above him. And then he closes the door and he just sits there and thinks. So I don't know if he's planning, so it sounds like he's there to take out Dedra. So maybe he's thinking, he's lucky he's got a room in the front and he's got eyesight at an Imperial building. So if she's there, he can try to take her out. But maybe he can see the plaza. The only problem, there's two stormtroopers stationed above him. They're going to see where the shot came from. And it's going to be hard for him to get out. I'm assuming that's why he sat there. Maybe he's just like, okay, now he's got to wait and he's got to make sure that this works. So kind of crazy. So that is episode 7. So, yeah, but soon I'll try to double up at some point. Okay, then Murderbot, season 1, episode 2, Eye Contact. So this is Alexander Skarsgård. I kind of debated, one, because of time, and I was like, oh, am I going to be able to watch everything and all that mumbo jumbo stuff that I keep going on about. But I don't know, because I try talking about stuff that people want to hear about. I sometimes wonder, like, do people want, like, I think this is an interesting show, but I don't know if people want to hear about it, if it makes sense to hear about it, because for some people, when I mentioned it, some people are like, what? I was like, yeah, there's a show called Murderbot, and they're like, what? So I don't know, because, I want to give you the content that you want, but also because, I mentioned this in the past, that sometimes when I look at the numbers, sometimes they fluctuate a little bit. So maybe, I don't know if someone's like, oh, I can't listen this week, but I'll get caught up next week. And yeah, so if people aren't listening, if everyone's not listening consistently, then do they not care if they miss? I don't know. So this episode, what is this about? Alexander Skarsgård is like a security robot, like this basic, not like in the murdering, but very violent guns, like, protect you, and he has sentience, or an AI system or whatever, and he was able to break this programming that makes it so they have to do whatever the orders are. So he basically has free will, but he is careful because his big fear is, like, if people find out that he broke this module, they're going to melt him down. And, because he's like, he can't, where he's at now, it's like he can't escape because, there's like just it's not going to, the ship available is not going to get him far. So he's trying to be normal, or whatever is normal as a
security robot thing can be. But he's with these scientists. He doesn't want to arouse suspicions. While they were out doing some stuff on this planet, this like sand creature thing came out of nowhere. It's not supposed to be on wasn't on the planet specs or whatever, and it attacked one of the scientists, and he saved them and everything. And as this other scientist was kind of frozen in shock, and so he retracts his helmet so you can see Alexander Skarsgård, human face, and he tries like comforting him, saying, "Hey, everything's gonna be okay. You have my word." And he's like, "How are you? Or what planet are you from?" Like just stuff like that try to calm them. And then when some of the others are like, "That's not normal," so they're starting to suspect maybe he's malfunctioning, and he's trying to cover for that. So that's where we're at now. Oh, and then they're also wondering what's up with the planet, because there's they have a map, but some areas aren't syncing. It's like, so it's not showing them like what's supposed to be happening. So they figure like there's got to be something up here. So with the second episode, Garathan, he's a super skeptical guy. He's had some upgrades. Not upgrades. He's had some like enhancements. So he's got like some computer stuff in him, whatever. So he's super skeptical. He doesn't trust this. He doesn't trust Murderbot, and that's what the name he was going to give himself. They call him Sec Unit for security, whatever. So he tells the other that and he refuses to call him because some of the others called him. But he's like, he keeps saying it. So it's in stasis now, and he killed the security cams in this area so they can talk while the robot's not listening, whatever. Mensa, who's like the one in charge, she says that she doesn't see any way around it. They have to go to one of the areas on the maps that's been blanked out, and she's like, and when I say we, I mean me. But Garathan's like, why you? And she says because she has expertise in terraforming, so she can take samples and measurements and be in and out quickly. Pinley, she says that it makes sense to go there, but what about safety? He's like, I'll go. And he's like, if you're going, but then she tries cutting him off, and he says that he has weapons training, and she says that he has to monitor the habitat, so like the little base that they're in. And Baradwaj, so she was the one that got attacked. She's on the mend. She's a geochemist. She's like, if she was well, it would be useful. But then Arata cuts her off. She was the other one that was in shock during the attack. And she's dating Pinley. I don't think they're married. But she cuts Mensa off, and she's like, I'm sorry, you should just take the Sec Unit. So she's a fan of it because the Sec Unit reassured her and everything like that. So she's like on Murderbot's side. But Garathan, he practically hisses, like, absolutely not. Rathi, he's a dude, he's kind of like the himbo, whatever. And he's like, oh, I see. He's like, that's why we're in the hopper, because you don't trust it. And Garathan's like, that's correct. So Rathi's like, yes, but you don't trust anyone. And Garathan's like, well, I trust you. I trust this team. I just don't trust anyone or anything that comes from the company. Mensa's like, and you have good reason for that. So the others kind of agree. And then Garathan's like, well, can we stay on track? He's like, I want to resolve this before it comes out of stasis. Mensa's like, I went in and I talked to it. And he's like, you did? And she's like, I wanted to draw my own conclusion. Pin Lee's like, and do you think we can trust it? Mensa's like, I think we can, but I think we have to be cautious. It seems like it's going through something. And Garathan's like, Sec Units don't go through things. And she's like, I know. And he's like, they kill and they maim things. And then when they malfunction, they get melted down for a material, which is the first thing that's going to happen to Sec Unit when we get back to port-free commerce. He's like, I'm going to see to it personally. But it's like, why is he's so insistent? Like, I don't know if he feels his competition because he has enhancements, but he's not a security person. He's like, but until that time, it's like, we need to stay out of its way. He's like, I don't want it to look. And an alarm goes off, and he all kind of gets scared. The door opens, but it's Baradwaj. So she's up out of bed. And she's like, oh, are you having a secret meeting? She's like, I love a secret meeting. So they say that she looks so much better, and she says that their med bay is amazing, and the stimulants are effective too, so she's not in pain. Then she's like, who fixed my suit? Rathi, the guy. He's like, oh, I did it. And Arata's like, you did no such thing. She's like, I did, whatever. So Bharadwaj's like, what's going on? And they mention, checking out the missing maps part. She's like, well, I'm in. Yeah, we should definitely do that. Murderbot is waiting for the last of his organic parts to be regrown. So he's at 97% performance reliability. He says that he's been in stasis. So he does a lot of self-narration for our sake. He's been in stasis all night, and his clients, the scientists, have decided to go exploring without him. So he gets an alert that the hopper's departed. He's like, stupid fudging humans, because it's dangerous. They shouldn't be going out there without him. On the hopper, Bharadwaj says that, so she and Mensa are going. She says she hopes this isn't stupid of them, and Mensa's like, it's stupid of her because she shouldn't have let Bharadwaj come. But she's like, no, I'm good. And she's like, it's good to get out there again. And Mensa says, okay, we're coming up on it. She's like, the scanners are acting kind of funny. And Bharadwaj is like, yeah, the scanners are corporate garbage. And then Murderbot narrates, he's like, that was true. So it's like he's hearing their conversation. He's like, all their equipment was garbage. He's like, yeah, including me. But one thing that worked? The data mining software that let me watch them at any time. So he can hack into everything. They don't realize that. And he's like, hey, just leave your sec unit behind and go check out more mapping anomalies. It's like, even though one of you just got chewed by a giant tooth monster. So he just thinks that they're being stupid. Mensa's like, it's probably best that sec unit didn't come along. And Bharadwaj, she's like, yeah, that was smart. And then sec unit's like, yeah, real smart. Bharadwaj's vital signs were spiking, and Mensa's were almost as high. So Mensa is like, remember, sec unit is from the company too. So if it is untrustworthy, and Bharadwaj is like, okay, yeah, it did save my life though. And Mensa is like, good point. Garathan felt it was best to leave it behind. So, but Garathan is, again, why is he so anti, he wants to melt it down. At that moment, Garathan, he's like, sec unit, can you come see me, please? Murderbot, he knows that he's against him. He's like, what was his fudging problem? He's like, it was Garathan, the augmented human who had the system's ability to keep me in the dark. So he walks in a room, he's like all armored up, helmet on. He's like, stop there, please, sec unit. Then he's like, ooh, look at him, all fancy with his augments. He's like, if I wanted to sneak up on him, I could snap his neck before he knew I was online. So then Garathan's like, I prefer it if you put your helmet down. He's like, now that I know you have a face, I'd love to see it. So he's like, his helmet retracts. Garathan tries spinning his chair around, but he has to noisily scooch it, so it's kind of awkward. Murderbot's like, oh great, eye contact. He's like, I hated eye contact. He's like, I watched through the security feeds instead, much less creepy that way. So he's kind of watching from a side, camera thing. So Garathan's like, please sit. And he's like, humans never asked me to sit with them, so sitting isn't really a comfortable position. And he's like, I'm fine standing, thank you. And Garathan's like, I insist, sit. So he sits reluctantly. And he's like, I understand Dr. Mensa and Bharadwaj are out in the hopper. Garathan's like, I'm in contact with them. He's like, they're taking all necessary precautions. And he thinks, Murderbot's like, I am a necessary precaution, moron. So Garathan's like, I notice you have an issue with eye contact. What a strange expression. Like our, eyes are stalks coming out of our head and touching each other people's eye stalks. And Murderbot's like, okay, weirdo. He's like, Dr. Garathan, I recommend I join the team in the hopper or that they return immediately. My threat assessment module indicates that. How is your system doing after yesterday's attack? Efficiency is at 97% and rising. Garathan's like, that's not what I guess I just don't understand much about sec units. What's it like to be you? So it's like, is he jealous? Does he want to be more because he has augments in him? Sec unit's like, I don't know what it's like not to be me, so I can't say what it's like. Then he's like, didn't he have anybody else to bother? What were Pin Lee and Arata doing? So he checks the security feed. Pin Lee tells Arata that she's precious to her. Life's so precious. She wants her to have everything. She's like, I love you. So they're hold hands, getting close. And he's like, ugh. He's like, that was worse. So then Garathan's like, sec unit. He's like, yes, Dr. Garathan. Do you know why I advised Dr. Mensa not to take you along? He thinks, because you're a dick? He's like, no, Dr. Garathan. He's like, because I look at you, and he stands to get closer, and I feel something's wrong. And he's like, oh, poop. The hopper lands. Mensa tries telling Baradwatch to stay in the hopper, but she insists. She's like, you need a good geochemist. But Mensa's like, I do have a degree in terraforming, and she's like, sure, but it's terraforming. And then Mensa's like, what's wrong with terraforming? And Baradwatch's like, nothing. It's just not geochemistry. And she's like, obviously, I need you here in case I have to run my arse off and get this hopper in the air. You can keep me safe by monitoring the hopper sensors. Garathan logged the sound footprints of one of those creatures. If you hear one coming, let me know. So Pinley and Arata. So again, Pinley and Arata are two women. And they're like together, married. I forget if they're married or just a couple. They talk about having a throuple. And I think Arata's like, well, the last one didn't go well. And Pinley's like, well, here's the thing. First off, she was crazy. She was dysregulated. So I'm not sure what that means. And second off, we didn't have a contract. So everything got very chaotic. He's like, but I already drafted one up. You said we were in a rut. And after that thing attacked, life is short. And Arata's like, oh, thank you. Oh, yes. And they hug. She's like, I think this is going to be great. And she's like, yeah, me too. Which I don't think this is necessarily what Pinley wants, but Arata wants this. So she's like, this is going to be great. Arata's like, I'm so happy. And she rushes out of the room. What it was mentioned, I think it was in the first episode, is Arata has a crush on Rathi. But Rathi apparently has a crush on Pinley. So there's like this weird thing. And yeah. Garathan, Murderbot's like, Garathan knew. He definitely knew. While he was busy printing himself some nutrition, I saw my chance to escape. So he starts trying to walk out of the room. Then Garathan starts talking as he tries leaving. In Preservation Alliance, we don't have sec units. Did you know that? And Murderbot's like, I couldn't stand this guy, but his interrogation technique was very impressive. And he's like, Preservation Alliance is not in the corporation rim. And Garathan's like, it most certainly is not. The prevalent philosophy is Preservation Alliance is that constructs, AIs, are people. I know, it's weird to think about. I only joined Preservation a little over 6 years ago. I was friends with Dr. Mensa. And Murderbot's like, why is he telling me this? And Garathan's like, I don't know why I'm telling you this, but I do know that in the corporation rim, you are considered equipment, and you have to do what we say. And Murderbot's like, unless it would endanger you. He's like, yes. He's like, unless it would endanger you, yes. And he's to himself, he's like if I pulped your head between my hands. Garathan's like, okay, well, I am requiring you to make and maintain eye contact. So he slowly turns his head and locks eyes. He's like, there you go. That's not so bad. And he's like, it was so bad. Mensa is climbing the slope. Baradwatch says she's monitoring her with drones. There's no hostiles detected. Garathan says that as far as he understands, sec units are not designed to form attachments with clients. Is that correct? And he's like, that's correct, yes. And Garathan's like, there are constructs designed for such purpose. And he's like, comfort units, yes. And he's like, comfort meaning, and Murderbot's like, sex. They're designed for sexual relations with humans. You are not designed for sexual relations with humans. And it's like, does he want that? Is he interested? Who knows? I don't know. And he's like, no. He's like, or emotional attachment of any kind. But I think this is his point. He's like, and yet yesterday you were quite empathic with Dr. Arata when you were helping her accompany Professor Radwaj to the hopper. And there's a flashback where he's making small talk, like what planet she's from, does she have children, what are their names? He's like, so I guess my question is, how is that possible? And Murderbot's like, I have a combat trauma module for helping clients. And he's like, by asking them questions about children? And then to us, the narration, he's like, okay, I got it from episode 537 of The Rise and Fall of Sanctuary Moon. And we see there's like a clip where someone's like been impaled and a trauma person's like, got this device on them, trying to get them talking. He's like asking all that stuff. So then to Garathan, he's like, I was programmed to model interpersonal relations. It's a new feature. And he's like, you're not new. And to us, he's like, to say the least. So Garathan's like, I was told you were refurbished. Refurbished for what? Weapon system or organic cloning? Your governor module? And there's flashes of him attacking that clip that he doesn't know what it means. Murderbot's like, I wish I could tell you, Dr. Garathan, but my memory was erased. He's like, okay, then here's the deal. I'm a very cautious person, and I care very deeply about my friends. So if you were malfunctioning in any way, if a sec unit was malfunctioning, it would be extremely dangerous for everyone involved, including the sec unit, I should check the perimeter. He's like, the perimeter's fine. And then to us, he's like, oh, he didn't fall for the perimeter thing. He's like, Garathan was a hard nut, and I could feel him starting to probe into my recent archives. So I decided to show him something else from my feed, something that was going on right here in the habitat. So Pinley, Arata, and Rathi, they put like thumbprints like on a document thing. I guess it's the contract, whatever. He seems kind of excited. They're just like standing there. Then all of a sudden, Arata grabs him. They start like kissing out. Pinley's like, she's trying to figure out where she should go. She like tries kissing like Arata's cheek or something like that. And then he says to us, human copulation. This is the part I skip over when I'm watching media. I could tell Garathan wasn't enjoying it too much either. And he's like, Dr. Garathan, are you all right? He's like, yes. And he says to us, he wouldn't be probing around my feet again anytime soon. So Garathan's like, you don't have to look at me anymore. I think what I was trying to say is that I care about my friends. And if they were under any kind of, danger or threat, of course, Dr. Garathan, anything that is a threat would have to be eliminated. In the meantime, I hope that you will be satisfied with my service. And then he gets alert. He's like, wait. And Garathan's like, wait, what? I just got pinged by the security feed of the hopper. Something is happening. So Mensa, she's like maybe halfway up the slope. She calls Bharadwaj, close to the top maybe. She says her sensor is going kind of crazy, so something's making equipment glitch. And Bharadwaj calls back, but it's like cutting in and out. And so Murderbot tells us, he's like, she was having another panic attack, but was too stubborn to turn around. So she does kind of pull it together, kind of, straightens up. She radios, she's like, if you can hear me, send the ship's drone ahead at a sufficient altitude to see the area. And she's like, hello, Dr. Bharadwaj. And then Murderbot's like, Dr. Mensa, this is your sec unit. I've detected a potential threat in the area. I must ask you to please stop what you're doing and return to the hopper. And she's like, sec unit, how are you doing? And he's like, these people, honestly. And Garathan's like, Dr. Mensa, this is Garathan. I am here with sec unit. It's using the satellite to run comms. And she's like, that's great, teamwork, so beautiful. I seem to be approaching visual of the center of the map lacuna. And there's like something behind her. She's like, it's just a matter of moments. Dr. Mensa, return to the hopper immediately. And Garathan's like, yes. She's like, I've come this far. Now is no time. And then there's a big roar. She stops. She's like, okay, fudge it, I'm leaving. Sec unit calls Bharadwaj and asks like, what's her status? She says that she's getting a vibration matching the first animal attack. So Garathan yells, come back now. Creature pops up behind Mensa. She turns and looks at it. It's like way up, like rears up. Rah! And then it kind of dives, passes over her. And then it kind of goes down into like this valley over the next ridge. Mensa makes it to the top. And she asks if the drone can see this, because it looks like there's like other bodies or bones of these creatures. And the drone's overhead, there's kind of like this, it's almost like a shimmer. I don't know if it's energy or just like a little mini tornado or wind or elements. And then the drone just explodes. So then Garathan's like, what the hell could make that happen? Sec unit's like, I don't know. I wasn't there. Dr. Mensa is returning to the hopper. I would like to check the perimeter with your permission. He's like, permission granted. And he's like, Sec unit, try to recover that memory, will you? For the refurbish. The data that they cleared from your memory. Or, you know what? I'd give it a shot myself. And he's like, no. He's like, no? And he's like, I mean, I'll try. And he leaves. Mensa returns. Garathan says that he's sorry. He insisted Sec unit not follow her on a mission. She says, she's just trying to, she's like, I just need a shower. So, she doesn't want to talk because she's like freaking out. Later, they're all gathered. She asks if anyone's seen anything like that. Garathan said that there's something beneath the terrain that drew them there and like killed them. Rathi says, he says something like alien tenements. And Bharadwaj is like, oh, like one of your shows. They say that maybe the company doesn't want them to know about it. Pinley says that, if there's something there, it's illegal to exploit it. Garathan says that doesn't stop some people. Then Mensa says that there's another survey team on the other side of the planet. So, should they try to contact them? And then they try going there. And I'm pretty sure, I think that's where it ended with that. So there's definitely something going on. But I don't know where this show is going. And I'm just really curious. So we'll have to see, how long will Sec Unit keep up this ruse that he's under their command. And because, they have to trust him. They're not going to have much choice. They need him, but they don't trust him. So it's kind of interesting. All right, now the movie feature Karate Kid Legends. I mentioned earlier that I hadn't seen the other Karate Kid movie with Jackie Chan and Jaden Smith. For some reason, I was under an impression that that was like a total reboot and that Jackie Chan was the new Mr. Miyagi. Apparently not, because literally when I'm in the theater, like trailers are just ending. I'm like, oh crap, I never looked it up. So it's like, theater logo stuff. I'm looking at IMDb, Karate Kid, I find a movie, and he played someone named Mr. Han. And then I was like, okay, Karate Kid Legends, what's he called? Mr. Han. That's what makes this better. Well, I'm so glad that they did that back then, that they didn't try to just like completely reboot it. Then the idea is we're supposed to have Mr. Han from that Karate Kid movie and Ralph Macchio from all the other Karate Kid stuff, and they're going to be helping this new kid. Now, I enjoyed the movie. Let's say that it is not the most original. It's basically Karate Kid. It's almost the same story, but there's some little other elements. What they do here, what's interesting is there's almost like two and a half storylines jam packed in this movie, and it's like I don't understand how they did that, because the runtime, what was the runtime? 94 minutes. So it's like an hour and a half. And that's the thing. Like some things kind of happen too quickly. But at the same time, a lot of people always complain, it's like, oh, it was too drawn out. They could have, trimmed it down or whatever. So they kind of go through a lot. And it's also, the pacing is weird, because here's a spoiler. It took almost an hour for Ralph Macchio to show up? Because it doesn't start from the beginning. The basic story, and again, because it's not really spoilers, our kid in this movie, Li Fong, he's played by Ben Wang, and I didn't realize, I was like, he looks familiar. What else has he been in? He was actually in American Born Chinese on Disney Plus, which I really liked that series. It was a little cheesy at times, but I thought it was really good, and I do feel like the Asian community should get more representation in certain things. I just finished listening to Interior Chinatown. This is totally tangent. So Interior Chinatown was a Hulu show. The only reason I watched that was because Chloe Bennett was on it. I didn't know anything about it. And then I didn't realize that it was based off a book. So I listened to the audiobook, and it's very weird, but just the whole premise, it's like they live on TV shows, and Interior, because that's what the script says, that's the location, and they're playing these different roles, and so you have all that, but it's also like an analogy of real life, their position and their where they're at. But there's also a lot about kind of their basic racism that they have to deal with, and just trying to fit in. And there's also stuff because there's this off topic. There's this TV show called Black and White, which is this white woman and a black dude, and so there's stuff about that, and how while the black community has dealt with their hardships, that's not this. It's different than what the Asian community has dealt with. The Asian communities are they didn't have to deal with slavery, didn't have that stigma or whatever, but they've gone through other stuff, and there's a lot of anyways. So American Born Chinese, it's worth watching, and I feel like it just didn't get a lot of promotion, but it was fun, and it's based off the book and that. Here, what we have is what's a little different. So Li Fong is our Karate Kid here, but he's not. It's not like Daniel LaRusso where he knows zip. He actually knows quite a bit. He's actually trained with Mr. Han, with Jackie Chan in Beijing, and so we find there's a reason he's not supposed to be training. Like his mom, played by Ming-Na Wen, which I love Ming-Na Wen. She's such a cool person. And again, because I got to interview her many times for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. She's always so kind and gracious. So she's his mom, and she doesn't want him training because something happened. There was an older brother. Something happened to the older brother. She's like, I don't want to lose another son to kung fu. So he's not supposed to be training. And then she tells him, her son, because he's training with Jackie Chan with Mr. Han. They're moving to New York because she's like a doctor, and she's got a new job. But then I'm like, wait, New York? Daniel LaRusso's in the Valley. He's in California, so that doesn't make sense. So he goes to New York, and all the stuff that we see in New York, it really made me miss New York from New York Comic Con and from Toy Fair when because I've been there many times, sometimes twice a year, and I've said this many times when we went to New York Comic Con, Matt and we would walk back. We would try to take a cab to get as close to the Javits, and then we would walk back to our hotel after, because it's so crazy to try to get a cab. We would walk through like Hell's Kitchen and get a pizza for our dinner. And I think we did pizza like almost every night because pizza is awesome. And New York pizza is a whole different thing. I like, and I'm not particularly, some people like Chicago, some people like, it's all pizza. I'm not like, this is the best. This is give me pizza. I'm happy. But yeah, there's sometimes you're in a mood for a certain kind, so whatever. But yeah, so we would just like walk, and we would do like, it was like maybe like we're a couple miles away from the Javits Center, and just walking through it is a great way to like decompress and unwind. Even though you're on your feet all day, it was just a lot of fun. And just, I love going, walking through the cities, because like when I was working in San Francisco, it was the the office was a mile from the ferry building. So there's just something about walking through. I don't think I'd ever want to live in a city, because that's not for me. But it's just nice to be there and just to experience all that. So there's a lot of scenes from New York that was just kind of nice. And I'm not like, I know some people, especially New Yorkers, like, oh, New York's the best. New Yorkers are, whatever, all that. But it was fun to be there. And so watching this in a movie, I was like, I miss going to New York Comic Con and that. So what ends up happening to tie things into the Karate Kid theme, the first night he goes to look, he's like, I'm going to get something to eat. I think I saw a pizza place around the corner. The pizza place is owned by Joshua Jackson, so Pacey from Dawson's Creek. And he has a daughter, Sadie Stanley. She to me, she looks like kind of like a Jennifer Lawrence. I see like a Jennifer Lawrence resemblance in her, even though her hair is like darker and everything like that. So she's Victor, Joshua Jackson's daughter, and that's where there's going to be a connection between Lee and her, because she has this ex who is into karate, and he's got a psycho crease type teacher, and he's like this really good karate dude, and there's this like the 5 boroughs contest, competition, and he always wins it. He's the type where he's really good at karate, and he has like no morals, whatever, and he will use that to pick fights with whoever, and he's just a big bully. And one point he sees Lee with his ex, whatever, and so then he starts picking fights with him and stuff like that. So that's where things kind of go. But there's also this side story with Joshua Jackson, and then eventually Mr. Han comes to New York because he knows that Lee's struggling with something, and then Mr. Han, he actually flies. And this is a crazy thing, is because Mr. Han knows that for reasons Lee's has to go in this 5 boroughs competition, even though his mom doesn't want him to do it. So it's like in 10 days, he's like, you're going to do this. I'm going to train you. But first, I'm going to fly out to California to go talk to Daniel LaRusso, because there's a connection between Mr. Han and Miyagi. He knew him, and there's a whole explanation for that, which was cool. I don't know if it was ever mentioned before, but I appreciate that. And if they just made it up, brilliant. There was a scene with Pat Morita and young Ralph Macchio. I don't know if that was all CG or if it was actual footage. I don't know, but. So he goes, and Daniel's like, he's like, I can't go to New York. He's like, I got things going on. So then obviously he is going to show up.
Okay, I just paused for a bit there because I thought it was on Wikipedia, or I thought it said this is taking place 3 years after Cobra Kai, but I don't know if they changed that because I was like, oh, that's interesting because there's no point where that's mentioned. But now I just did a quick skim without I'm not gonna sit here and read the whole page, but it just said it takes place after the events of the series, but it doesn't say the time, so maybe they didn't want to lock that in. Because that was one of the things I was curious about. But the interesting thing about it, and I know I think I'm on this tangent again, is originally this was going to come out in, I think, December or whenever Kraven the Hunter came out. So they pushed it back. And it's weird because it was supposed to come out earlier, but it would be weird if this came out before Cobra Kai was over. And I don't know where was that thinking ever? Why would they even consider doing that? Because then, after a while, they're like, okay, yeah. Oh, okay, I've just found it here. It features a storyline set 3 years after the event of Cobra Kai. So I was like, okay, that's fine. But yeah, see, September 20, thought I saw something like when it was supposed to come out. But anyways, yeah, so then basically, Daniel comes out to New York, and then Daniel and Mr. Han train Li Fong. So, there's a lot of silly moments, fun moments, but like I said, it's just another Karate Kid movie, and that's fine. I think that's totally okay to do that, and I feel like there's enough for me to make it interesting, and to keep my interest in the movie. And there was times where I actually laughed, and so I enjoyed it. Rotten Tomatoes. So here's the thing. Critics not super crazy about it. 57% from the critics, but 86% by the fans, by the audience, the people who actually went and saw it. So I think that says something there. Because again, it's not reinventing the wheel, but it's more of the same, but different enough in a kind of interesting way. I did, maybe it's a little too on the nose how it's just so identical. There happens to be another evil bully karate champion with an evil instructor, but whatever. It was great to see Ralph Macchio and Jackie Chan side by side. It was just a lot of fun, and I just really enjoyed it. So I recommend it. If you've seen the other Karate Kid movies, if you've watched Cobra Kai, you definitely should see this. If you haven't, you can still watch this. Even if you're like, well, I saw Karate Kid back in the day, or maybe you haven't. The younger people, you don't need to know that. Because they do explain the history of it, and you don't really need to know the full blown everything. But they do. So it is new viewer friendly, but it's also very well put together to merge the Jackie Chan and the Pat Morita, everything like that. So I enjoyed it. I'm glad I saw it. It was entertaining, and that's what I wanted. Not the best made movie, but it was fun, and I think you should see it, unless you hate Karate Kid. But hopefully you don't hate this podcast or this episode. But that is going to be the podcast for this week. So big shout out to Andrew Loken. He is a big supporter of the show. You can be a supporter by going to patreon.com/gmanfromheck. Any amount you can commit to will be awesome. If you commit at the Rick Jones tier or higher, you get access to the secret podcast from Heck, which is an additional 30 minutes of podcast entertainment every single week. I'm currently looking back at classic Hobgoblin issues, early appearances, to try to figure out who is he, are there any hints and indication, what's going on. And it's just fun time in comics to look back at these stories. But if you can't commit to a monthly commitment, you can also help out by going to coffee.com/gmanfromheck. You can buy me a virtual cup of coffee or two. That's ko-fi.com/gmanfromheck. Okay, so what is going to happen next week? So next week, the movie, I am so excited for this. We are going to get Ballerina, from the world of John Wick, or whatever they're calling it. So we have that. I don't think, let me just look quickly here. I don't think we have any new shows starting. There's something coming up soon. Yeah, so it doesn't look like anything. I think Rick and Morty is back. I don't know. I think I didn't cover the last few episodes. I don't know if that's worth me covering. So I don't think we'll do. Oh, and just like that, season 3. I haven't watched any of that. I'm not going to cover that. But we have that. So we'll have more Murderbot, the final Doctor Who, and then we'll see if I just do one Andor. Maybe I can try to squeeze in 2. There's also that, was it Fountain of Youth? On Apple TV, which I don't think it got good reviews. Maybe I can find time to watch that. We'll see how it goes. So there will be plenty to talk about, I'm sure. So thank you for listening. I hope you're doing well. It is now June as you listen to this. So this crazy summer is almost here. I hope you have fun, exciting things planned, and you're still going to have time to listen to the podcast. I hope you're taking care of yourself. I hope you're doing well. And I hope you remember, be good to each other.